Video Sports Talk on a Tuesday afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, all here with you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Does my microphone work?
Yours is working. Can you hear me now?
We got you loud and clear.
All right. I don't know what the heck happened there.
Someone reset the board when I was in here and at 12:30 and now.
Well, we're on the air now.
So
it's all good. That's radio. It happens sometimes. Welcome to the show. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis here with you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on this Tuesday afternoon. We've got a whole lot to get to on the show today. Plenty of NFL draft coming up over the course of the afternoon. We've got more mock drafts to get to. We've got our guys for this year's draft. Who are the best fits for the Chiefs? Who do we like the most in the middle rounds? Who are some of our favorite prospects, period? We'll get to all of that. We've got What Is Wrong With You? We've got Random Question Tuesday. Michael Swain is going to stop by on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. Tons to get to in our 580 Sports Talk headlines. So much coming up today on 580 Sports Talk, including some Royals baseball. Lost last night to the Blue Jays. We will get to that and also a little bit on the newest member of the Kansas City Royals as well and his debut with the team yesterday. All that's coming up here in this Tuesday, April 23rd edition of 580 Sports Talk. We'd love for you to be a part of the show. You know all the ways to do so, either on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, or you can also jump in to the YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. Let's get to our keyword for the 2 o'clock hour for the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest. You can enter this keyword between now and 3 o'clock on the dot, and you'll be entered to win a trip to anywhere you want to go, courtesy of us here at Alpha Media. Your keyword for the 2 o'clock hour is amazing. And no, that's not the adjective. That is literally your keyword. Amazing. 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 So head over to 580wibw.com, click on Choose Your Trip 2024, and you can enter the keyword amazing. From now until 3 o'clock, we will have a new keyword for you coming up at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. We start today with the Kansas City Royals, which not, again, a great game overall. Not a terrible game, not a great game by any means. The worst start yet for Brady Singer this year, and it wasn't even a total disaster. But it's the first 3-game losing streak for the Royals this season. There will be peaks this year. I would consider the first 2.5 to 3 weeks of the season a peak for the Royals. There will be valleys this year. I would consider the way they've played over the last week plus, week and a half-ish, to be something of a valley. That is going to happen when you have a team that is unproven. This is not a team that has won a lot recently. That happens when you've got a team that is very young, when you've still got a very new manager. This is now, 23 games into year 2 for Matt Quatraro as a manager? Things happen. Young players, slumps happen, there's bad luck, etc. That's baseball. It happens sometimes. That being said, I can understand a little frustration. You got such a great taste early in the year of, oh man, this is new Royals baseball. The boys in blue are back. It is the summer of Bobby. We are locked and loaded for the return of the feeling. The power is back. And then it's taken away from you, and the rug is ripped out. The trick of the tablecloth being pulled out from underneath you, except instead of all the glasses and plates staying on the table, they all got pulled off with it and crashed down to the floor. Not an extremely pleasant last week or so. For Brady Singer, it wasn't bad. He was not especially accurate throwing strikes yesterday. I think it was, 65 balls, 42 strikes for 107 total pitches in 6 innings. So
other way around, 65 strikes, 42 balls.
I'm sorry. That's what I meant. Excuse me.
Still, you'd like to see a little better. And the traffic that he dealt with, he did not deal well with.
Yes.
To have 8 base runners on you in 6 innings and 5 of them score, that means you got the traffic backed up on you a little bit. They had the 3-run triple by Bichette there in the 3rd inning. I don't know if Kyle Isbell catches that ball, but I would rather have seen Kyle Isbell trying to catch that ball than Garrett Hampson trying to catch that ball. And that's not to say that I don't understand why Garrett Hampson is in the lineup, because I do understand why he's in the lineup. Right-handed hitter against a left-handed pitcher in Kikuchi. But sometimes that means you sacrifice a little bit of defense for offense, and that may have been costly because Garrett Hampson, who I do not consider to be the equal of Kyle Isbell as a defensive center fielder, got the tip of his glove to that baseball. And that left me wondering if maybe Kyle Isbell would have gotten all of his glove on that baseball. And then it's just a sacrifice fly and you're out of the inning a batter later, potentially. So Singer did well to strand Bichette at third with one out, got an infield ground ball and a strikeout to get out of that inning, but then give up the big home run to Varsho in the sixth. It just felt like every time there was traffic, they came in to score. Singer wasn't able to put his foot down and strand guys in the way that he really needed to. And on the flip side, the Royals just didn't deliver on their offensive opportunities because, frankly, they didn't have many. Kikuchi pitched really well. Garcia hit the dinger, and they had a big chance in the bottom of the sixth to maybe get back in the game at 5-2. 2 in scoring position for Velasquez. He grounded out. And other than that, they get the leadoff double by Frazier in the seventh. Can't bring him home to put a little pressure on that Blue Jay bullpen. Isbell pinch hit or came in for defense, and then he ends up, or pinch hit earlier in the game, ends up homering in the ninth with 2 out and nobody on base, which good for Kyle Isbell. Like we talked about him as a guy who needs to get his bat, needs to get his offense going.
Yep.
That's encouraging, but that's the only thing you can take away that's real good from this was that Garcia and Isbell had big swings of the bat. And the Royals are going to need those guys to produce.
No, I agree with that entirely. The Royals actually out-hit the Blue Jays yesterday, 8-6. It was not, in terms of the granular stuff, it was not an awful offensive day for the Royals. The big issue was the fact that they went down so early in the game with that 3-run, third inning?
Yeah.
That
those crooked numbers earlier.
You never quite caught up. I was looking at the StatCast numbers from the game. The Royals had twice as many hard hit balls as the Blue Jays. I mean, they made good contact against Yusei Kikuchi. Royals had 17 hard hit balls. That's 95 miles an hour off the bat or better. Pretty hard. Pretty good velocity off the bat. The Blue Jays only had 9 for the game. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Or of the top, there were 26 hard hit balls. The Royals had 17 of them. Let me phrase it like that. So they're doing what they are continue to do. They have done it all year to this point. They hit the ball so freaking hard. Now it's about A, the situational stuff has to be better, and B, eventually some of those are going to get through. Because we've seen them get through. We saw 3 weeks of them getting through.
And we were saying a lot of these same things last year about the Royals. Like the Royals have guys up and down their lineup who, when they make contact, hit the ball hard. From Michael Garcia to Bobby Witt Jr., who does it better than just about anybody. Vinny Pasquantino's contact quality is very good. MJ Melendez's contact quality is very good. Salvador Perez has always made pretty good contact with the baseball. That's always been the case for these guys. The difference is last year when we were saying, man, they're hitting a lot of balls hard, they're not seeing great results from it. They weren't getting good enough pitching, and they were 5-23 or whatever it is that they started. They were miserable. This time you're saying it after a little 3-game skid in the middle of what's been a pretty good start otherwise, and say, hey, the process stays the same. The results will get better. And we have some actual proof from the first 3 weeks of this season that the results can indeed get better. But like you said, this is a young baseball team, and this is the first real adversity they've kind of met head on this year. First 3-game losing streak of the season. Who's going to put their foot down? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be somebody on offense who has a big night tonight against an outstanding starting pitcher in Kevin Gausman? Is it Michael Wacha, who's got to go out and match Gausman potentially on the mound tonight and gives the Royals another quality start? But teams that are contenders, again, there is a difference. We talked about it yesterday. Competitive teams, contending teams. I think we've seen enough to establish that the Royals can be competitive. Last year, they weren't. Like, you know what non-competitive looks like because you've seen a lot of that the last few years.
Yeah.
For the Kansas City Royals. You know the difference. Competitive, I think, is within grasp for this team. Being a contender is a different deal. Being a contender is the next level. And being a contender means you don't let these 3-game skids get to 5, 6, 7-game skids.
John Sherman's new ballpark has chimed in on the YouTube feed.
Great to hear from the new ballpark.
John Sherman Stadium will be more hitter-friendly. Hard hit balls die at the K due to concrete.
That's always the concrete fault.
I think that was actually a line in the official proposal from the Chiefs and the Royals. I think that's an official part of it. No, I mean, it'll turn eventually. The positive thing, the biggest positive for me is that we have seen what the top end of outcomes looks like for the Royals this year, as opposed to previous seasons where they had 7 wins in the entire month of April and you never actually got to see what could a good Royals team look like. We know what it looks like, and we know what the process looks like. It sort of goes back to what we talked about yesterday, though, and I don't know if we used the word organizational depth yesterday, but when you've got multiple spots in the lineup that are giving you nothing at all, that's at least somewhat mitigated when you've got 4, 5, even 6 guys who are hitting the ball hard, but you want a little bit more than that. You want to have more options who can make more contact, who can hit the ball with a little bit of pop. You want a little more of that, which the Royals just don't have right now, and that's something you have to live with. I would much rather have a Royals season this year where we're going to go through these peaks and valleys with the team and see periods where this looks like a finished product. This looks like a team that's going to win 90 games and make the playoffs. And then have periods like this where there are going to be growing pains. I cannot emphasize enough. This team is still so young. Brady Singer and Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo are the old guys now, and Salvi. Those are your old guys on this team right now. The vast majority of the rest of your key players are young and are going to have stretches like this and are going to deal with bad luck and are going to go through slumps.
And to your point, I think you want to have those peaks and valleys in a season rather than go out and win 90 games and your valley is your first round of the playoffs and you get swept out of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to take time to build and to learn how to overcome that adversity and to learn how to win and how to win important games. Obviously, you want to beat teams like the Blue Jays, who, I don't know, you probably have a better grasp of this than I do, but I think the Blue Jays are a playoff contender this year.
They are a contender.
Yeah.
Like that's the difference, right? Like some of the teams that the Royals have run into this year that they have not performed well against, like Baltimore and Toronto, those are firmly contenders. Toronto hasn't played great, frankly, to start the year. They're actually getting outscored on the year despite their 13-10 record, and they're still waiting for some of their bats to really get going. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been just okay. Bo Bichette's been slightly below average. George Springer's starting to look 34 years old. Like they're not a perfect team by any means, but this is a team with a playoff core. This is a team of guys who know what it takes over the course of 162 games to ride those ebbs and flows and be in the mix when August and September come around. Who on the Royals has that experience? In the everyday lineup, it's basically Salvi and, I guess Hunter Renfroe. Like he was on the pennant-winning team on the Rays in the COVID year. Adam Frazier was on the Orioles last year when they won, but he wasn't a real important guy. He's been on some good teams. I guess Garrett Hampson was on the Marlins. They made the playoffs last year, but I think he was on the 2018 Rockies.
But
shout
of
out to Garrett Hampson.
But like the guys who are
guys who are the voices in the locker room.
You got
right?
one of those.
One of those guys.
Yeah.
The leaders on this baseball team, the guys that would consider the leaders, are Salvador Perez, Bobby Witt Jr., and Vinny Pasquantino. And if that's your leadership council, so to speak, 2/3 of the guys don't know nothing about that. They haven't been a part of that in their baseball, in their Major League Baseball careers. So it is a learning process. And this is the first time that this year's team has been met with adversity. So how do they respond to it? Do they let themselves get kicked in the face and lose 3 out of 4 this week? Or do they strike back tonight? Do they get behind Michael Wacha, play a good 9 innings, find a way to beat a Cy Young candidate on a year in, year out basis in Kevin Gausman?
I think it was good last night to see Miguel Garcia. He hit a dinger. He's not been hitting very well of late.
No, whatever you can get out of him at this point is going to be a positive because you've got to build up a little more confidence.
But also, the confidence. Does that home run get him out of the slump that he's kind of in? Also, they pointed out on the post game when they had the interviews that were posted on their Valley Sports posted on their Twitter. It's his 4th home run of the season in 22 games, and it took him 100 and something last year.
132. Yeah.
To get 4 last year. I loved seeing that little thing on the graphic.
And for Garcia, there's evidence that this slump, it's not about necessarily his quality of contact or he's swinging and missing more often or striking out more. That's not the case. He's actually striking out less per at bat than he did last season. He has a 179 batting average on balls in play. Like some of this is just he's hitting into some hard luck. But when you're a young player, you don't see that. You just look up at the scoreboard and you see that my batting average says 178. And I need to hit a 10-run home run every time up.
I'm going to guess Maikel Garcia does not pull up his phone after a game, sitting at his locker. He goes and showers, gets changed, sitting at his locker, pulls out his phone, and Googles Maikel Garcia savant, and goes and sees, well, I had a tough day today, but I'm still 80th percentile in expected slugging. I'm doing all right. No, he sees I went 0 for 4. What the hell?
Yeah, that's Keone Durant's job, right?
Yeah,
that's
right.
the coaching staff's job to say, Maikel, your process is still very good.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Keep doing what you're doing. You're going to turn this around. That's Salvi's job. That's Vinny's job. That's Bobby Witt Jr.'s job to rally around their guy and say, hey, we know you're going to turn this around. But it's hard for a young player. He's only 24 years old to look up and see that and feel like, man, I got to get out of this slump in one at bat. I got to hit a 10-run home run and get myself out of this slump and get my team out of this losing streak. It's hard for young players. And a lot of these guys still are that. So, but you're right, Spencer. It was good to see him hit a home run. He had gotten out. I think he was like in an 0 for 23, 0 for 20 plus. And he had a hit the other day. Oh, I think that might've been Friday night. And even that didn't quite stir him and get him going. So maybe a long ball will. He's going to bounce back just based upon there's no way he's going to carry a sub-2 batting average on balls in play all year. That just doesn't happen. But for now, it's been rough. And again, when you're not getting production from the very top of your order, that increases the load on 2, 3, 4, 5. And while those guys have all been swinging the bat pretty well, and then you got the bottom half of the order not really contributing, and you're not scoring enough to win baseball games. And that's kind of been the problem for the Royals for the better part of the last week and change is they have struggled to score enough. They were fortunate that they didn't need to score a lot to beat the White Sox when nobody has to score much to beat the White Sox. They're batting below the Mendoza line as a team still. This sub 200 team so bad, batting average.
That's so bad.
It is. They got 3 wins, man. It is April 23rd.
Really quickly.
I think they're on pace for like 22 wins on the season or something.
Yeah.
Like
so
that.
what are they? 3-16 now? Or is it worse than that? It might be 3-19 actually. So if you've won 3 out of 22 games, that's a winning percentage of
3-19.
3-19. Okay. Thank you. So they've won 13.6% of their games. If you,
prorate that to 162.
That's 22.1 wins.
Yeah.
That rules.
That's great.
I am going to guess they do not finish with 22 wins.
No, but the thought of it.
What's the fix? What do you do to fix that? They don't have great pieces. Like, they're not going to go out and say, you know what? We're going to sell the farm for Trout.
Do they even have a good farm?
Not really.
Yeah. So
no, it's quite bad.
That's what I thought.
They've already brought up 2 of their best prospects. They pitched against the Royals.
Yeah. It's not in good shape. And they it's not like they can tank this year because of the Major League Baseball draft lottery rules. They can't pick higher than 10th next year. That's the highest they can pick.
That's so very stupid.
I don't love it either,
so stupid.
But it does discourage being lousy for long periods of time, which the Astros were able to take advantage of that. The Cubs took advantage of that. There were teams that have taken advantage of that, and it worked out for them, certainly. But the Orioles are another team that have currently, you see how well that's worked out for them. But I don't think Major League Baseball wants teams to waste 3 to 5 years losing 100 games over and over again, and you keep getting rewarded with these high draft picks. I think they would like to see a little bit. The idea behind it is it's incentive to be competitive.
I totally understand all of that. Here's the problem, though, with that logic. It did work for the Chicago Cubs. They hired a Hall of Famer to run their baseball operations. Theo Epstein's going to the Hall of Fame.
They've also got money. They've got money. They had the money to go spend and sign a John Lester and do things like that.
And had the prospects to trade for Jake Arrieta and to trade for dudes. The Astros very clearly had an incredible group in there eventually to draft the right guy. I mean, shoot, they missed on one of those picks. They drafted Mark Appel one before the Cubs took Chris Bryant.
Yes,
who
they did.
Now is not good, but he won an MVP.
Yes, he was an integral part of. They got his best years, and they were good enough to be
he was
the best player on a championship team.
He was the prince who was promised for those teams. Like, those teams had the pieces in place in the front office to make it work. The White Sox have 6 of those clapping monkey symbol toys as their front office. They are stupid. And they have been stupid for all but precisely 1 year of my entire life.
Stupid.
Apparently, we're all wrong about their minor league system. According to Bleacher Report's rankings that were published less than 10 days ago on the 16th, they have the third best minor league system.
I do not believe that.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, I'm willing to be wrong. I am floored by that.
Yeah, that would really surprise me.
They have the Royals as the 28th.
That adds up. That adds up.
better.
Yeah, it's not been a great run of drafting for the Royals front office. We've discussed the lack of organizational depth.
But yeah, that's my hang up with that, is that in theory, we don't want you wasting all this time because some teams that had good front offices were able to build and make it work, but you wasted all this time. The White Sox are just going to be swimming in their own you-know-what for years.
Apparently not, according to Bleacher Report. They also have Chicago. The two Chicago teams ranked 1 and 3.
Here is my counterpoint to Bleacher Report on this. Have you literally ever watched the Chicago White Sox? In your entire life, have you watched anything the White Sox have done? They are an embarrassment. A charter. The origins of the Chicago White Sox exist as far back as 1894. And they've won as many World Series since World War II as Spencer's Washington Nationals. They've been to as many as the Rockies. And you have all heard what Dan thinks about the Rockies.
Apparently, Nastrini is their 8th best prospect. Who is the other pitcher?
Jonathan Cannon.
Cannon isn't even listed on the top 10 prospects. Left-hander Noah Schultz, right-hander Drew Thorpe ranked 2nd and 3rd.
I know Thorpe as well.
And
Thorpe,
then
they got
Yorio Irate.
All right. Jairo Iriarte.
Okay,
is
he's the 5th prospect.
One of these.
Jake Eder is the 10th.
I don't think this is the same caliber of prospect analyzing as Keith Law or Kylie McDaniel or one of them.
Again, I don't know. I'm just saying what Bleacher Report has published.
Again, you got to make it work, though. Like for the Royals, for all their problems, they hit on the most important one. They hit on the number 2 overall pick in 2019, and that has worked. And he is a burgeoning star. It was 2019, right? Yeah, 2018 was all the pitchers.
Yeah.
Holy cow, he was drafted so long ago. He was a child.
Yeah.
A literal child when they drafted Bobby Witt Jr. But you've got to hit on those guys and then have the development in place. That's the difference between a Chicago, which has gotten bad luck too, because Jimenez can't stay healthy, Moncada can't stay healthy, Robert can't stay healthy. But you've got to hit the right players and then develop them as well. I have a lot more faith right now, and it's crazy to say this, in the Royals being able to develop pieces than I do in plenty of other bottom feeder teams. And I like Quattrero. I like the coaches he's brought in. I really do think there are some positive pieces here. You're just going to have to understand there will be moments like this. There will probably be another one in May. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a great 2 weeks and a bad 2 weeks all season long. You know what you are if you're that? You know what happens if you all season long go 5-1 and then 1-5 in 6-game stretches? You're 500. There are going to be moments like this. Just do not panic quite yet. Also, some positivity that came out of yesterday. The first appearance this season for the Royals for Tyler Duffy, and some positive things said by his manager, Matt Quattrero, after the game as well. We'll get to that. Some Chiefs front office news yesterday as well. We'll touch on the new contracts for Reed, Veach, and Donovan, all coming up here in this opening hour of 580 Sports Talk. started on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer with you. Don't forget to hit us up either on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, or on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. We'll get to some college football later today. Talk some K-State, bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. A very notable transfer portal entry earlier today. We'll also get to a little KU football and KU basketball in the 4 o'clock hour when Michael Swain joins us for Jayhawk Weekly. I did want to mention, though, as we continue to talk about the Kansas City Royals, some comments from Matt Quattrero yesterday regarding Tyler Duffy, who made his Royals season debut yesterday after he was called up prior to the game from AAA. 2 innings, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, no runs allowed. No hits allowed either in those 2 innings. Obviously, you'd rather not walk a guy in inning, but all things considered, more strikeouts than innings pitched. Did not allow a run. Bullpen could use a veteran presence if Will Smith is not going to be long for the Royals bullpen, which is certainly a possibility with how bad he's been. I'm happy with that. Happy to see something like that from Tyler Duffy. These are the comments from Matt Quattrero after the game. Quote, he's a veteran arm, a guy we thought of highly when we signed him in the offseason for exactly this reason. He's competitive. He throws strikes. He can spin the ball. And against a team with a lot of righties, it's a good guy to have. The one in there, you could hear me emphasize it. He throws strikes. That is what the Royals want out of their pitching staff. They want you to, rain the zone. They want you throwing strikes. They want the ball over the plate. Whether it's overpowering guys, you're getting soft contact, whatever, throw strikes. I am fine with that. I am 100% okay if your strategy is just going to be, we have dudes who are going to pound the zone, they're going to attack you, and more often than not, it is going to work. Again, that does not necessarily work for everyone the Royals have in the bullpen right now. But if that's what Duffy can be, and if you're going to say maybe some of those higher leverage situations Smith has been in, those are now Duffy's innings, great, awesome, let's roll.
It's nice to be able to lean on veterans, guys who've been there, done that. And Duffy's pitched in a lot of big league games. I think he's close to 500 big league appearances. Pitched for a long time for Minnesota, was most effective in 2019 and 2020. Started to lose his effectiveness a little bit. Wasn't very good in 2022. Hardly appeared in the bigs at all last year. So it's got to feel good for Duffy just to be back in the major leagues. But he's been just about a 9/9 strikeout guy. Somebody who can miss a bat and somebody who can soak up multiple innings the way he did last night. It's good to have those veteran, versatile bullpen pieces who can go get a lefty and a righty, who can get you 1 out, get you 3 outs, get you multiple outs, soak up innings in a spot like that last night where you're behind, you need to keep the game close. It's nice to be able to go to a veteran in that spot, somebody that you can rely on, somebody who's not going to get too high or too low, who's been there, done that. And it's especially nice because some of the young arms that the Royals were maybe hoping could impact their bullpen this year are not off to good starts, either injury related or at AAA. We know Carlos Hernandez is going to be an option at some point for this team, but he's still not back throwing yet, I don't believe, dealing with his shoulder injury. Jake Brentz just started his rehab assignment. His ERA is infinity after 1 outing in Omaha. That's not what you want. You especially don't want 3 walks in your 0+ innings, particularly for a guy who completely lost the strike zone last year. John McMillan, a guy who was really impressive in a cameo last year in September, who struck out 8 guys and didn't walk anybody in 4 innings of work. He's walked 12 in 5 1/3 innings in 7 appearances down in Omaha. That's kind of out of nowhere relative to how he pitched last year, although it is kind of in line with some of the wildness he showed when he was at Texas Tech and coming up through the Royals chain. So that's worrisome because I think you were looking at McMillan as a guy with a big power arm and strikeout ability who could help you out down the road. And right now he's having trouble finding the strike zone in the Pacific Coast League. It's not what you want. So you need veterans to be able to fill that front end of the bullpen. You know, the semantics get tricky, but the back end of the bullpen is generally considered like your end of the game guys. Like James MacArthur's the back end of the bullpen because he's right now the closer. And I would say Chris Stratton and John Schreiber are probably the back end along with MacArthur right now. Then you have Matt Sowers, the front end. Right now he's the long reliever, the Rule 5 guy. He's your long relief. Him and Angel Zerpa probably are what you consider the front end, and your guys in the middle are Will Smith, and now Tyler Duffy is going to be part of that. Nick Anderson's part of that too. It's nice to be able to have guys who can pitch in any role, who can pitch in any opportunity, any game state. You can feel generally good about their heartbeat. It was Clint Hurdle, used to manage the Rockies and the Pirates, who talked about one of guys who had slow heartbeats, who aren't going to get too high or too low, who are going to stay calm, been there, done that in any situation. And so it's valuable for the Royals bullpen to have right now, especially because the Royals haven't had to lean on the bullpen too heavily.
That's how CJ Moore has always described Dwan Harris for KU. Says you get the slowest heartbeat in college basketball. And he's just calm, cool, collected, is not going to panic in those moments. And baseball is the same kind of principle, right? You want guys like that. And I kind of like the way the Royals have assembled this roster in that your starting rotation, you're kind of splitting the difference here because Reagans is a high upside younger guy. Singer, a lot of variance over the course of his career. I think that's a fair way to put it. But the floor raising pieces that you added this offseason, Michael Wacha, high floor, probably not a guy who's going to be your ace, and frankly shouldn't be your ace, but you know what you are going to get when Michael Wacha takes the mound. Generally the same kind of thinking with Seth Lugo as well. You know what you are going to get. Those are kind of the anchors of your starting rotation. Bullpen, to have a guy like Duffy, the process of going out and getting Will Smith was a smart one. It has not worked out so far. He has not been very good. But the idea that we're going to have the safe, not super top end guy, there's no Mason Miller, a guy who's going to throw 103 in the 9th inning, but you've got some veteran guys. You say, hey, we're fairly confident they're not going to completely blow up in a bad spot, not going to have that sort of high variance. And to be able to balance those with an offense and a group of position players that are really young. Again, to go back to this original point from last segment, they are young. You're going to have to go through growing pains with them. But as they go through that and experience those peaks and valleys, you've got some more sturdy, solid pieces, both starting pitching and relief pitching that you can bank on a little bit. I like that roster building strategy.
And it's part of what we talked about at the beginning of the year. I like the Royals 1 through 26. I think they raised the floor to their 26-man roster, but it's never about just 1 through 26. Usually it's about 1 through 40. Sometimes it's about a lot more than that. You need contributions from everybody in the organization, everybody who's on the 40-man, even some guys who don't start the year on the 40-man. Some of those non-roster invites, like Duffy was, end up being pretty important cogs. So, made a good impression on at least one fan from the 785 on the Top City Mail Supply text line. Seems obvious that Duffy's the best reliever the Royals have. I would say that is James MacArthur. I would say that firmly. You cannot move me off of that stance. I think James MacArthur's a dude. I think he's going to save 30 games this year. But it was a good first impression. And that stands in stark contrast to a lot of the guys the Royals have brought in this year who didn't make and are not making good first impressions.
You make a point about a first impression. It's about how you come out after that first impression as well.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this, though. There are a lot of times guys do not recover from the negative first impression. True, yes. Like, I'm trying to remember the year. I want to pin down the year exactly that I'm thinking of here when I talk about this player. And it wasn't necessarily a first impression because he was returning to the Royals after he had started his career there and had some time away. But I can tell you this. In 2016, Joakim Soria had a bad first month. And nobody trusted him again for the next 2 years. He was on the Royals, 2016 and 2017. Nobody had any faith in Jack Soria to do the job because he was really bad right away in 2016.
Yeah.
Even though he was fine, like his numbers. In fact, in 2017, he was kind of awesome. He only allowed 1 home run in 56 innings.
He was really good in 2017.
So it is all about many times that first impression. And like Will Smith could reel off 10 straight scoreless innings. I don't think that's likely. I think his stuff sucks. But he could reel off 10 straight scoreless innings starting tonight, and you'd still have people at the end of the stretch saying, oh my God, I can't believe they're putting his bum in the game. That's just the way relievers work. It's very hard to love relief pitchers. That is one of my ultimate curses as a sports fan, as a baseball fan. I am cursed to love relievers. Relievers will only let you down. Unless their names are Wade Davis, Greg Holland, and Kelvin Herrera, and they pitch for the Kansas City Royals from 2013 to 2015.
Yeah, that's correct. Or you're a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
Mariano, and you had Mo, yeah.
Yes. The guys that are in the Hall of Fame are in a Hall of Fame for a reason. Every other reliever will ultimately break your heart. And I have let so many of them. I am the proud owner of a Wade Davis Rockies jersey, okay? I have let relievers break my heart.
He had one good year, did he not?
Got us to the playoffs 2018. That's a franchise saves record.
I
love Wade Davis. I've got a pair of his spikes. That's a long story, but I do have a pair of his game-used spikes.
Does he have the Royals record, too, for saves in the year?
Single season saves? I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm going to look it up. Because if he does, he would own that record for 3 different franchises.
Does he have the Cubs record?
Yeah.
Still?
I don't think that has changed.
Let's see. Top 10 single season pitching. I'm pulling it up for the Royals right now.
Yes, he does have the record.
How about no? Greg Holland has the record.
Oh, Holland. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misread the Google preview.
Yeah, in fact, he's not even in the top 10. Davis. He didn't have a monster save here because he really didn't take over as the closer until 16.
Until later, yeah. But he does own the Cubs record. Yeah. He spent 1 year with the Cubs, and he struck out Bryce Harper, I believe, with the bases loaded in a full count in the final game of the 2017 NLDS.
Oh my God.
And it made every single other moment that whole season worth it.
It was
awesome.
I hated that series.
He also struck out Harper to clinch a playoff berth for the Rockies in 2018.
Wow, he hates Bryce Harper.
Absolutely hates him.
Hey, me too. Me and Wade Davis have that in common. Coming up next, we're going to transition over to the Kansas City Chiefs and some big front office news yesterday from Kansas City. Andy Reid, he ain't going nowhere. Eat your heart out, Mike Florio. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Finishing up this 2 o'clock hour here on 580 Sports Talk, some thoughts from the YouTube comments. JB says, I'm not sure I've seen any pitcher do better than Wade Davis in 2014. HDH was awesome. Mark even says that. They were the best for the Royals those 2 years or whatever it was, but those dudes kicked butt. We also have a question from Clayton who says, how did you get Wade Davis's spikes, Dan? We must know.
Okay, I will try to tell the story as short as possible. But as I mentioned, I am fated to fall in love with relief pitchers. And that's why I enjoyed the Royals. I was covering them, and I was doing radio down in Wichita. So I covered 2013-14. So I was kind of in on the ground floor a little bit. They got real good, and HDH became a thing. Mm-hmm. And I love the idea of if you have a lead going into the 7th inning, the game is over. Like, that is a very satisfying feeling. One I, in my current fandom, have never known. So I enjoyed that whole trio of Holland, Davis, and Herrera a great deal. Davis was my favorite of the group because I just thought he was the most unflappable. Like, nothing bothered him. He'd put 2 guys on and be like, yeah, whatever. I got this. Double play, strikeout. We're done. We're done here. Everything's fine. I advocated heavily for the Rockies to sign him when he became a free agent after 2017. It's the first time I've ever wanted the Rockies to do a thing, and then they go and do it. So I was really excited when they signed Wade. And I figured, even if his arm goes, they'll still get 2 good years out of him. Even if his arm goes by the 3rd year, I was 1 year off. His arm went after the 1st year, unfortunately. So long story short, a friend of mine who I am acquainted with via the internet and Twitter won a raffle. There was some game used stuff that was being given away, and this person won a raffle for a game used pair of Wade Davis spikes and sent me a message saying, hey, I know you're a big fan of his. Would you like to have these? And I said, yes, I would. And so now I have them.
There you go.
That's pretty cool.
I need to get the bobblehead. They're doing the HDH bobblehead this year out at the K. I got to get my hands on a Wade Davis bobblehead.
Those are sick. Those are awesome.
The Royals do such a good job.
Yeah, they do.
With their bobbleheads. They look really, really slick.
I've got a bunch in my office.
I do too.
Yeah.
Like 5 or 6.
No, they're cool. I've still got the Slugger bobblehead. We went to that game.
Yeah, you and I, we were at that. That was on the Fan Express.
The Express, yeah.
Man, I remember the Fan Express.
Oh, damn COVID ruined
I have
everything.
a bunch of Nationals ones that we got my last job.
Are they the flimsy plastic ones, or are they like the solid
good?
Ones?
No, like they're the good ones.
The sturdy ones? Those are nice. I like
they
it.
used to give us all the giveaways. Not all the giveaways.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the package.
For being an affiliate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would get them, and there's not very many Nationals fans now that they're bad where I used to work, because it's a little far out from the greater.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the greater DC area. So I just snag one of everything.
Royals, listen. If you wanted to pass along some of those HDH bobbleheads,
yes,
we're not going to complain.
Your boy wants one very much.
So. We will promote it. Like, go to the game, get one of these bobbleheads. Like
we'll tell you all about
do it all.
If I'm not mistaken, they're giving them all away the same weekend. I think it's a 3-game set against the A's. Yes, next month.
Yeah.
Yes.
Saturday, I think, is the Wade Davis one. So.
You are correct. Yeah, it's Herrera Friday, Davis Saturday, Holland Sunday.
So have you already bought your tickets yet, Dan?
I don't buy tickets, brother. I got a guy.
Yeah. I did want to, we're going to get in trouble one of these days. I did want to get to this really quickly from yesterday. The Chiefs, new contract extensions for Andy Reid, Brett Veach, Mark Donovan. I don't know this for a fact. There can't be a longer tenured trio of I'm going to count Reid as the front office here. A front office trio, right? Like a decision maker trio in terms of administrative, personnel, and coach than 2017 with these 3, right?
I think that's about right. Now that Pete Carroll's out and Bill Belichick's out,
mm-hmm.
The Eagles front office has remained intact, though they've changed coaches.
They've changed coaches a bunch, right?
What about the Steelers?
No, because they replaced their GM.
Yeah,
because Colbert retired and Omar Khan took over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think you're right.
Continuity is important. How many times can we talk about this with the NFL? And granted, the important thing with continuity, too, we used to say this a lot with Jesse Newell when we would talk about Kansas football. We'd say, hey, nobody got poached. Nobody left. Everyone's coming back. Is that good? And he would say, well, hold on a minute here. The key thing is that your people have to be good. Like, you can't have crappy continuity. That doesn't do anything for you. But Mark Donovan is very good at what he does. Brett Veach is very good at what he does. Andy Reid actively is the best at what he does. So bringing all those guys back, locking them down long-term is a big deal. We don't know any specifics yet for Veach or Donovan. We do know Reid is signed through 2029, and Tom Pelissero from NFL Network said he is the highest-paid coach in the NFL, or he is going to be the highest-paid coach in the NFL. This contract will take him until he is 71 years old, which is the same age as Bill Belichick when he coached his final season in New England. He just turned 72 a week ago today for Belichick. That will also take you to Patrick Mahomes' age 34 season. Andy Reid can coach beyond that if he wants to. They're not going to tell him no. If he wants to go beyond that, that's fine. But that seems like it is intentionally lined up to, all right, Andy, you're in your 70s, an even 5-year extension. Patrick is going to be entering the back 9 of his career at that point, which is unbelievable to even say that it's still 5 years away from the back half of his career.
And you might be right about just entering it. Like that might be the T on hole 10.
I mean, if he takes care of himself, I have no reason to believe that he will not. I'm talking about Mahomes here. Well, and Reed, to be frank. But as long as Patrick Mahomes takes care of himself, there's no reason he can't play till he's 40 if he wants to, 42 if he wants to.
Play as long as he wants.
Why not?
Yeah. And it's nice to know that this is done. And hopefully that will scotch the retirement rumors that the Chiefs had to deal with the entire final month of the season in the postseason. Mike
Florio has an open invitation to 580 Sports Talk to come on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline and let me yell at his stupid face for a full segment. What an imbecile.
You will not see the pearly gates, Mike Florio.
No, he will not. I just, how can you cover the NFL for as long as he has and still not know anything at all? Anything. Oh, the Chiefs have to prepare because they might lose Andy Reid. No, they will not. What is Andy Reid going to do in retirement? Answer me that.
Eat cheeseburgers.
Yeah, seriously. Like,
chill.
You can
watch football
and wish he was coaching. Like some people, that's just their thing. Like you could probably point to a couple of coaches right now in the NFL and say, yeah, they probably, when they retire, are just they're gonna be done. Some people can do that. I know Aaron Rodgers is gonna get into some weird stuff now, but I remember him saying years ago, he said, no, when I retire, I'm not gonna coach. I don't want to do TV. I'm gonna get into, funny enough, he said he wanted to get into like healthcare and like invest in new medicine.
I bet he does.
Suddenly things make a lot more sense. But some guys are just done. They're ready to step away and be done with it. Andy Reid is not that guy. I think anyone who knows anything about Andy Reid would say he's not going to retire when he's at his most successful. Come on, let's be reasonable. He's not going anywhere. Probably a foregone conclusion for him, Veach, and Donovan. But like Dan said, it's good to just get it done. That is absolutely a positive. We have to get to a break here for the national news at the top of the hour. When we come back, another round of mock drafts and some very intriguing ones, including one from our pal Matt Derrick. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. go. 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday, 3 o'clock hour of the show. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis here with you today. Thanks for hanging out with us, whether you are listening along on 580 AM or 104.9 FM, online at 580WIBW.com, or watching us on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. We appreciate you being along for the ride today. Lots of football to get to this hour. Another round of mock drafts hot off the presses for you here in a moment, including a couple very interesting ones from both ESPN and from our pal Matt Derrick at ChiefsDigest.com that we will get to. We'll play Random Question Tuesday. And a Kansas native and former K-State commit is back in the transfer portal. Is K-State on the table again for Mr. Dylan Edwards? We will get to that coming up later on this hour on the show. Your texts are welcome. 785-272-9429 is the number for the Top City Metal Supply text line. And you can also jump into the comment section on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk, the name of our YouTube channel. 481 subscribers. We'd love to get to 500 here in the near future. So hit us up on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel while you're over there, and we'd love for you to be a part of the group that watches us regularly on YouTube. Or if you just want to subscribe and not watch, that's fine too. We'd appreciate at least a click, but one way or the other, we would love for you to check us out on our YouTube channel. Are you gentlemen ready for our 3 o'clock hour keyword for the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest?
I am ready.
All right, let's do it.
Let's go.
Love the energy. Yeah, love it. Ugh. All right, 3 o'clock hour keyword. I can really get fired up about things and I'm just so excited. Our 3 o'clock hour keyword, go to 580WIBW.com, click on Choose Your Trip 2024 and answer the keyword shopping. SHOPPING. That is your keyword for the 3 o'clock hour on the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest. So click, enter the keyword. You will be entered to win a trip to anywhere you want to go, airfare and hotel included. That keyword, shopping, is only active for the 3 o'clock hour. So once we hit 4 o'clock, you will need to wait for the new keyword. But in the 3 o'clock hour, shopping is your keyword, 580WIBW.com. More mock drafts to get to. The draft begins in just about 52 hours. 2 days and 4 hours from now, 7 o'clock Central Time, the draft will begin. The first pick probably won't come in until, 7:20 at least? It always takes forever. No, we don't need to wait. We need to go back to the days when the number one pick could sign before the draft. Caleb Williams will be the number one pick. It was Mario Williams did that, I believe, with Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Matthews, I know, did that the year he was drafted early on. Matt Stafford definitely did. They got rid of that in the collective bargaining agreement after the strike.
Yeah, they put in the rookie wage scale now, too, so you don't get, like, Sam Bradford signing for $70 million right off rip. Or they may as well call that the Sam Bradford rule.
It really is. Jake Locker is the guy who missed out the most by waiting one more year. He probably cost himself $40 million, $50 million.
And who knows how much money not caring about football cost him.
Well, yeah, that also a big difference maker. All right, we've got some mock drafts to get to. Let's start with Matt Derrick, our good friend from ChiefsDigest.com. He will join the guys coming up on Friday, the guys being you two. I will not be here. You guys will be, though, and you'll talk to Matt Derrick. He and Nick Jacobs, who we heard from his mock draft yesterday, they do a podcast together called 41 is the Mic. You can find that on the Chiefs Digest YouTube channel. They do an awesome job, by the way. I would recommend you go check that out because they do a really, really good job. Matt made a little adjustment to how he did his mock draft. He said with the first round pick, trade up. That was what he said to do. He said, don't know what it will take. I don't know which position they need to get to. Trade up for one of the top offensive tackles. That's what he would do with that first round pick. He also made a pick with the other 6 that the Chiefs have. They will not be keeping all 6 of their other picks if they need to trade up in the first round. But that's what he said he would like to do with the first round pick. So that, he said, would include going all the way up to number 7 to go get Joe Alt. I don't think the Chiefs will be able to do that. I like Joe Alt a lot. I think he is going to be a very good, rookie starter in the NFL. I don't know what his ceiling looks like, but I like Joe Alt a lot. Number 7 is the Tennessee Titans. You know what the Titans need desperately? A starting offensive tackle. I don't think they are going to trade out of number 7 if they can get Joe Alt right there. Matt said if you can't get there, why not go up as high as number 11 and go make a move to go get Olu Fashanu from Washington? Go get him. Cool. I'm all in for it. I don't know what it'll take to move from 32 to 11.
Penn State, right?
Penn State, yes. I'm sorry.
You're thinking of Troy Fatuanu.
Fatuanu, yes. Thank you. Go to number 11 and get Fashanu. Fine. Awesome. I'm all in for it. I don't know that you'll be able to do it, but that would be fine. Number 19, he said, with the Los Angeles Rams, maybe that's where you can go up and get Ardarius Mims from Georgia. Offensive lineman, maybe a little bit more of a project just because he's a huge athlete, has barely played. He played something like 15 games in his college career. It's actually incredible. I have to go find Amarius. I called him Ardarius. Amarius Mims. In his college career, he played a whopping, let me pull this up for us here. They don't even have him on Sports Reference for how many games he played in his college career. I can tell you, though,
he only started 8 games in his career.
8. Yes, that is the number.
So
8 starts.
That's the number of starts, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And granted, Georgia's had a lot of talent, but that's not a whole lot of experienced football. A lot of teams really like him. A lot of teams, or from what I have read, would be scared off by the fact he hasn't played a whole lot. Matt said, hey, go up, trade into the top 20 to go get him. Just go get one of the top tackles. I think you can view this both directions. I'm all for it in terms of the logic that why wait? Why wait and hope on a project if you can go get a guy who you think can start right away? Totally understand that. I also think it's fair to say you got a lot of expensive contracts coming up for the Chiefs or guys who are going to be signed to expensive deals. Do you want to make a move like that when you need more cheap talent going forward? I can see both angles from it, but I understand Matt's logic. If you can go get a starter right away, why not do it?
Yeah, I'm not sure they have the draft capital unless they're going to trade next year's first rounder.
A future, yeah.
I don't love the idea of doing that. I think even if you're picking low in the first round, that's your best shot to get blue chip talent is with a first round pick. Young blue chip talent. And that's what's going to sustain this thing that the Chiefs have going right now is the ability to bring in young blue chip talent while you have to pay your quarterback all the money in the world because he's worth that and then some. So I don't love the idea of trading all your picks. I don't think certainly don't think you go in the less need F them picks mentality moving forward. So I don't think there's enough for the Chiefs to say, yeah, we're going to get up to 7. We're going to get up to 11. I could see them moving up into the 20s.
Yeah.
And maybe Mims is there at 23, 24 if they really like him, or Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma.
J.C. Latham from Alabama's in that range.
Or they could hang tight. Suamatai for BYU will almost certainly be there at 32. Jordan Morgan could be there at 32. Patrick Paul out of Houston could be there at 32. Almost certainly will be there at 32. So they've got a lot of options. The thing for the Chiefs is if they're going to draft somebody, they got to be sure it's a left tackle. You got to be 100% sure. Are you 100% sure on Jordan Morgan? I don't know. Like, he's got the ability to kick inside and play guard, but is he absolutely a left tackle?
Yeah.
Patrick Paul, to me, is absolutely a left tackle. Tyler Guyton is absolutely a left tackle. Troy Fatuanu, I'm not sure. I think he might be more of a guard. Graham Barton out of Duke, I think he's more of a guard. And everybody seems to be projecting him as more of a guard.
We're going to talk about Graham Barton in the top of the 4 o'clock hour.
All right.
I love me some Graham Barton. Second round pick for Matt. He's got Jalen Polk, who Peter Schrager from NFL.com and Fox Sports, he had the Chiefs taking Jalen Polk in the first round when he released his mock draft last week, which was a little bit rich, but I like Polk a lot. Matt said he would again be willing to move up to go get him, if assuming you have all your picks. If Polk is around at 50 and you're not sure he's going to get all the way to 64, move up and get a guy like that. I like Jalen Polk. Second round, if you had to move up a little bit to get him, say you move one of your fifths and then a future day 3 pick or something to go up into the 50s to go get him, I'd be okay with that. I like Jalen Polk, especially if you're not taking a wide receiver earlier. All good with that. He's got Christian Mahogany in the 3rd round. We talked about him yesterday, the interior lineman from Boston College. 4th round, we have seen this pick in the 4th round so many times. Will Shipley, the running back from Clemson. I think Matt had that in his previous mock draft as well, in fact. Braden McGregor, the edge from Michigan. We've seen that name before, pretty much in the exact mold of a Mike Dana. Kitano Ladapo, a safety from Oregon State. at the end of the 5th round, and then Joshua Cephas, another wide receiver, with the 7th round pick out of Texas San Antonio. Very talented. Some of the best hands in the entire class. Almost no drops in his college career.
That's music to the ears of Chiefs fans.
That is the plus. Here's the con. He got a DUI recently. If any team is willing to take a risk on that, it's the Chiefs. Are they willing to take a risk on that when they just had their number 1 receiver get in a car accident, which was very stupid and should not have ever happened? Like, is that a move you're willing to make? Not that Rashee Rice was drinking when it happened, but are you willing to take a risk on a guy who just had a car-related arrest after your number 1 wide receiver just had a car-related arrest? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a question worth asking. I think it'll come up when we discuss, as we've discussed, I should say, guys like Devondre Sweat, who some mock drafts have had the Chiefs going for in the middle rounds.
I don't mind this from Matt. I don't know that it's my favorite one, but I like the logic behind a lot of it.
It meets your needs.
Yes.
I think that we've all kind of come to see that the Chiefs need a wide receiver, Chiefs need a tackle, Chiefs could go for a running back in the middle rounds. This checks all the other typical Chief boxes. Christian Mahogany's interesting. Like a day 2 pick on an interior lineman. Like, are you thinking that you might not be able to keep Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey and Joe Tooney's probably, we talked about being on the back 9 of your career. Joe Tooney's probably there. Is that what you're looking at with Mahogany? Long-term replacement for him? Can you get a guy with maybe a lower floor but higher ceiling on day 2 that you can try and develop the next year or two? I don't know. I like trying to get players that are going to start for you on
those first 2 days.
In the first 3 rounds, yeah.
Tooney, for what it's worth, he's obviously under contract this year. Next year, he is under contract. It'd be $11 million dead money if they cut him, but they'd save $16 million. So that is very much in the range of you could go either way on that. I lean toward, if he's healthy, you just play Tooney because you know what he is.
Yeah.
But we have seen a lot of people with a lot of connection. Matt's well connected, who have said Chiefs go interior line in the middle rounds, which I think is at least worth noting. Next up, we go to Jordan Reed from ESPN. He has the Chiefs making a big trade to move from number 32, last pick of the first round, up to number 24. That's a swap with the Dallas Cowboys. The Chiefs would give up their 3rd round pick and their earlier 5th round pick, plus number 32, to move to the 24th pick, with which he has them taking Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver from Texas. So that is Jordan Reed, who, if you don't know who that is, he replaced Todd McShay. Todd McShay used to be the lieutenant draft guy at ESPN. Now it's Jordan Reed. He says, go get AD Mitchell. You just have to move up to go get him. And to be frank with you, fine. I would do it. I think AD Mitchell, I have come around in the last 2 weeks. I think the perfect wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs in the first round this year, because you're not getting one of the top 3 guys, is AD Mitchell. I would do this.
I would too. And it may depend on how the board is falling. That might be one of those things where you got to stay nimble a little bit and see how the wide receivers are falling. And it might be worth it for the Chiefs to not just move up to get a guy you like, but move up to keep Buffalo from getting that same guy. Because everybody seems to think Buffalo's going to take a wide receiver, even though, like, that's not the only need for Buffalo.
Yeah.
They've got some needs in the secondary, but this isn't a great secondary draft.
But by that token, maybe that means you have to take a guy early. Maybe you see, we need a corner.
We got to take Kool-Aid McKinstry at 28.
Exactly who I was thinking about. Such a cool name that he goes by Kool-Aid.
So
I do
dope.
love that.
Oh my God.
So I would do that. I would go get AD Mitchell. I think he is that good. I think he is a perfect fit for the Chiefs. No, second round, number 64, Dominic Pooney, offensive lineman, Kansas.
We would be able to hear you from your little mountain getaway.
Yes.
If that was the pick for the Chiefs on day 2.
I think it's a good pick.
My hooting and hollering would echo off of Rocky Top all the way back to Kansas.
It would be like when the Bulls drafted Devon Dotson, except like 10 times more.
I was beside myself. I'm telling you what, man, I was beside myself that night. I wish it had worked out better. What do you think Pooney is? Do you think he is a guard who can play tackle, or do you think he's a guard or a center? And I think he's possibly going in the second round, certainly day 2, either option. He's a lot more appealing to the Chiefs if you think he can play tackle in the NFL. Maybe not for certain, But if you think it's a possibility, I think, yes, that's a hit for the Chiefs right there. It's just a matter of where do you think he can line up. No third-round pick in this one because of the trade up to get Mitchell. So we move to the fourth round. Tanner McLaughlin, tight end, Arizona. I know you watched a lot of Wildcat football last year.
I did.
Bet on a lot of Wildcat football last year.
I did.
Any thoughts on McLaughlin? We have not heard that name at all.
Big and kind of raw.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not necessarily a guy I think you would count on to play a bunch of snaps right away. I have seen him in the 7th round in some mock drafts. I have seen him as high as the 4th round in this particular mock draft. This is as high. I mean, I haven't been combing through every mock draft with a fine-tooth comb for Tanner McLaughlin, but I've also have seen him in the 7th round of some mocks, and 7th round of the Chiefs, in fact, in some mocks. So big, toolsy tight end with good hands, and somebody the Chiefs could probably spend a year developing. Don't hate it. Again, I think tight end is an interesting position of need. I think if the Chiefs went for one before like the 7th round, that would tell you something about how they evaluate Noah Gray's future with the team and maybe even Travis Kelce's future with the team.
Yeah, good insurance, no doubt about that. The remaining 5th round pick, Miles Harden, cornerback, South Dakota. Day 3, Brett Veach, cornerback. Fine. I do not care. Throw a name out there. I do not care. I have spent so little time watching cornerbacks this year, and safeties for that matter. They do have Jordan Reed from ESPN, Sion Vaki from Utah, safety. I have watched a lot of Utah football recently because I love watching them play. They're awesome. They have a great coach, and they're fun on offense, and their defense is nasty. I'd be okay with that. I actually know Vaki a little bit. I would be cool with that in the 7th round.
He would contribute on special teams right away. Immediately. Like, he played running back and safety for Utah.
Strange.
Like, he's an all-purpose player. Like, you don't see guys like him very often.
Wait, he played on the offense and defense in college?
Yes, correct.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Athletic.
Yeah. Super athletic. Can really do it all. He would make the 53 without a question, and be a special teams contributor from day one. And I don't think he's a running back at the next level, but hey, it would be fun to see a guy try to do both things.
He recorded this past season 51 total tackles, 8.5 for loss. So he's a box safety. He's going to play in the box. 2 sacks and an interception. He also forced a fumble the year prior. And as a running back, he had 42 carries for 317 yards and 2 scores. He also caught 11 passes for 200 yards. You don't think Andy Reid would like a guy like that?
Yeah, this is a football player.
Yes, which 7th
capital
round,
F, capital P, football player.
7th round, as versatile as they come, tough, good athlete, well coached. That's what you want to spend 7th round picks on. I like this one from Jordan Reed a lot. Pricey to move up. I like A.D. Mitchell enough. I would do it. Final one we're getting to today. Austin Scott from Pro Football Focus. So PFF did a full 7-round draft. They had one different staff member take each team. So the one who is responsible for the Chiefs is Austin Scott from PFF. I'm going to be completely honest with you and upfront. I do not know the work of Mr. Austin Scott. Here's his mock draft. The A.D. Mitchell went to the Bills with number 28 here. So he was not on the table for the Chiefs in the 1st round. He has them going with Dan's favorite prospect, Ladd McConkey.
I really like this pick too. I'm now very high on Ladd McConkey.
Oh, all right. Bro.
I've watched a lot of tape recently.
We're eating the tape.
You've been eating the Ladd McConkey tape.
Let's go.
Yes.
I love this.
I really like these first 2 picks, honestly.
I like number 2 a lot here. So 2nd round, 64th overall, Patrick Paul. Dan, you mentioned him earlier, the offensive tackle from Houston. Name has picked up a lot of steam recently. I would be content with this. You've heard what I've said about McConkey. I think he's a good player. I think he's probably going to be able to contribute quickly because I don't know how much higher his ceiling is than what he showed at Georgia. I think he's just not ever going to be an X or a Z. He's not going to be a number 1 receiver, but I think he can contribute right away. I like Paul in the 2nd round. I think that's a guy who can battle for that starting spot at left tackle right away.
I don't think you can sit there and count on him being available at 64 based on
Agreed.
A lot of what has been coming from Patrick Paul himself and his representatives, that there's a belief among them that they're going to go in the 1st round, potentially. Maybe that's to the Chiefs at 32. Who knows? But I would not sit and count on Patrick Paul being there at 64. Like, if he's a 2nd round pick, I think he's probably a trade up for the Chiefs. I'm not seeing it with Ladd McConkey, man. I feel like I've beaten this into the ground. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I watched the games, and I do not think he was an impact, gotta keep your eye on this guy at all times kind of player. And granted, Georgia had one of those guys in the passing game, and it was Brock Bowers, and he's going to go in the top 10. So any wide receiver you put on the same team as Brock Bowers is going to be the number 2 option in the passing game. But I never watched a Georgia game thinking, boy, they better cover Ladd McConkey.
In his second season, he didn't play at all in 2020. In 2022, 58 catches, 762 yards, 7 touchdowns, was also a jet sweep guy for them. This past season dealt with injuries. He only played in 9 games, 30 catches, 478 yards, 2 touchdowns. So would you say he's more of a compiler to you, that he was the beneficiary of other talent?
Yeah, and then the other thing that bothers me about him from the Chiefs' perspective is I think he's a slot guy. I don't think he's an X. I don't think he's somebody you play outside. And I think they need an X receiver.
Totally fair.
They do not need, they have a billion slot guys. They want a guy to be jet sweep guy, go pay McCole Hardman. Everybody loves him.
Well, counterpoint. I know what you mean. I know.
Everybody in the locker room loves him.
Okay, fair. 3rd round pick here. I like this one. I've told you before, the safety class stinks. There are very few I would take before day 3. This is one of them. Dadrian Taylor Demerson from Texas Tech. Like him. I like it. I would take him in the 3rd round. If you're going to take a safety early and you like the guy, I would take him. 4th round, we saw him yesterday. Mason Smith, defensive lineman from LSU. High upside guy, dealt with a lot of injuries in college, has a recruiting pedigree.
You're betting on him coming back from the ACL injury that he just maybe wasn't 100% last season, because he really didn't produce much for LSU this past year. He looked like he was going to be a all-consuming monster after his freshman year, and then he tore his ACL like in the first quarter of the first game.
Yeah.
It was incredibly cruel. And for him to have kind of a disappointing year, didn't really do a lot in the stat sheet last season. What you're betting on is the recruiting pedigree and the ability to maybe a year further out from the ACL injury, get some of that burst and some of that athleticism back.
After that, we're getting real weird with it here. Nehemiah Pritchett from Auburn, cornerback in the 5th round. Day 3, Brett Veach, cornerback, fine, don't care. Any name, we'll take it. 5th round, number 173, Hunter Norzad, center from Penn State. That's a center. That is very specifically a center player. I think if you're keeping anyone on the interior of Smith or Humphrey, I think Humphrey stays. That's my assumption, is that if you have to keep one of either Smith or Humphrey, I think it'll be Humphrey. I probably wouldn't take a center then. I would take a guy who's versatile and can play center, like Nick Allegretti.
Yeah.
Go find the next Allegretti.
You do. You probably need I wouldn't be surprised if they end up with a swing lineman out of this draft.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all.
I just don't think you take the swing lineman in round 2 or round 3. I think the swing that's a more appropriate place to go find somebody who you can coach up.
And finally, in this draft from Pro Football Focus, Jaquan Jackson from Tulane, wide receiver. What do you know about Jaquan Jackson? That's JHA'. Quan.
He's probably the best prospect named Jaquan that has ever been.
He did not produce. This would be a return game pick, I think. He had one game over 100 yards last season. That was against South Alabama. 1 week later against number 20 Ole Miss, he had 83 yards. He did not go above 48 the rest of the season. Only had 6 catches once.
Not a real big guy either, only 5'11".
That to me is a return guy and is a jet sweep guy. I mean, 7th round, so what, I guess. But I don't love, not my favorite wide receiver we've seen mocked to the Chiefs. So those are your 3 today. What's your favorite of the group?
Favorite of these 3?
Yeah.
I would say it is Matt's, not because he's a friend of the program, but because you check all the boxes in a major way, even if I don't love the idea of trading a future first to go up and get a starting offensive tackle.
Fair enough.
For the sake to not repeat, I like Reed's. I think
that's the one that starts with A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah, I think you get A.D. Mitchell. Then you get Pooney. You get 2 of your needs. Yeah, you trade it up. You lose a pick.
Lose 2 picks.
But yeah. And then, I mean, ideally, I'd like to mix match some of these. Like I could mix match and make my own mock draft just out of what's here, because I agree with a lot of them, but in different spots. I like Shipley, but I do like, we'll get into it later, but I really think McConkey's going to go to them.
Very fitting that you say that, because we're going to have our own mock drafts tomorrow in the 3 o'clock hour. So be ready for that. We've given you a bunch. We've got ours coming up tomorrow. I would go with the Jordan Reed one as well. Honestly, if the Chiefs trade up and lose a third rounder, I think they will trade out of the second round. I think they would move back to try to add more picks. But A.D. Mitchell is my number one guy for the Chiefs in the first round. You know how much I love Dominic Pooney. And Vaki on day 3, I think is going to be a player. I think he's an immediate contributor. That would be my favorite from this group. We'll talk some more NFL draft coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Right now, we've got Random Question Tuesday to get to. And Dylan Edwards back in the portal. K-State, some players are talking about it. Will he come home? We'll discuss that coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get to Random Question Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk. Mine for you guys is sports related today. Who is your favorite athlete as a kid who wasn't good, or at the very least was not a star? Like, no one else, people might remember this guy, but wouldn't have the fond memories that you have of them. I say guy, could be a woman. Maybe it's a basketball player or a volleyball player, soccer player even.
They call them cult heroes.
Yeah.
You know, the guys
your personal childhood cult hero athlete.
Yeah, the guy who, they weren't the most athletic, didn't score the most points, but you just, like, when I was really little, like 4 or 5, I started collecting, like, sports cards and stuff. I decided that my favorite Nuggets player was Joe Wolf. Why? He had cool hair. He didn't really have cool hair. It was like a mullet. Like, it was not cool hair.
Hey, nowadays, that is cool.
Yeah, I guess it's become cool again, but to a 4 or 5-year-old, it was sick, right? So Joe Wolf was my guy when I was real little. I also loved Ryan Bowen, who played for the Nuggets, played at Iowa. maybe the least athletic person to ever play professional basketball. And he was on some truly wretched Nuggets teams. But yeah, Ryan Bowen was one of my favorites. That's about what I could give you. I could sit here and talk about Brian Bohannon and the Rockies for a long time too. I always really like Brian Bohannon. Again, you want to talk about a guy who didn't look like an athlete, was not body by Dunkin' Donuts. Brian Bohannon, soft tossing lefty, played in the big leagues for a long time. I remember one time, I think he started a season for the Rockies like 4-0, and I said he's going to win the Cy Young. And my dad said, "Want to bet?" And I said yes. At the end of the year, I owed him Dairy Queen.
That's a great dad bet.
Yeah, it is.
My uncle taught me how to bet, which my mother loved, obviously.
Right.
And he used to bet me $1. They would come over, my aunt and uncle, and would watch, Bears Packers or Bears games or whatever, and I'd say, "No, Bears are going to lose." He said, "I'll bet you $1." And my mother would cringe across the room, and I would say, "Yeah, you're on." And he was a Bears fan, and they lost all the time, so I won a lot of dollars. Spencer, who would be your answer?
Probably. Well, I don't know. Santana Moss, not the biggest star, consistent player.
No, I loved Santana Moss. I thought he was fun.
He was my first jersey I ever got.
He was a good player. I like Santana Moss.
But like realistically to what you guys are saying, this guy named Steve Lombardozzi Jr. He was on the Nats.
Remember him?
Yeah.
He was on the Nats during 2012, 2013, and then he went to the O's and then had a stop in Pittsburgh and the Marlins. I just loved saying his name. And now up to bat, Steve Lombardozzi. My dad and I used to go back and forth with that when he would come up.
See, that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's a good one.
A guy with a 74 OPS plus in 3 years with the Nats.
He went to Detroit in the trade when they got Ian Kroll, or they sent Ian Kroll and Robbie Ray for Doug Fister.
Wow, that's a real.
So Steve Lombardozzi, Ian Kroll, Robbie Ray, who probably is the best player of those bunch, for a Doug Fister who was done.
Doug Fister was a dude though back in the day. I used him on the Immaculate Grid.
Yeah, 6'9".
Yeah, big guy.
For me, I would go baseball. It was Joe Creedy. I loved Joe Creedy, and he had a couple years where he was pretty good, but he was mostly just like, yeah, we could replace him, but we don't have anyone better, so he's still going to start at third base. I loved that dude. I loved those mid 2000s White Sox teams. Paul Konerko, big, slow first baseman, was pretty much like my ethos as a young baseball player. I was a little fat. I was probably faster than Paul Konerko as a kid, but I loved that corner infield. Football wise, the Packers just ran through so many running backs after Amon Green until Aaron Jones. Ryan Grant was around for a little while. I loved Najee Davenport as a kid.
Deuce Davenport.
Yeah, turns out not a great guy, Najee Davenport.
Spencer, if you don't know the story, look up why they call him Deuce.
Yeah.
It has to do with a laundry hamper.
Yeah, and broke into a woman's dorm room. Like, it also got alleged with DV at one point. Like, not a good guy. But as a kid, I did not know any of that. Yeah. I thought his name was funny. I loved Najee Davenport, and he backed up Amon Green, who was very good. Sam Gatto also in there. Yeah.
That's the weirdest, grossest thing a dude could do. Why do you think that was okay?
Quote, "Where's the evidence? Where's the manure? I know I didn't do it. I just wanted to get it over with." Yeah.
Well, yeah. Do yourself a favor, folks. If you don't know that story.
Yeah. So I loved him he was very much like just a guy. He was a total jag, but I loved him as a kid.
My random question today, this is inspired by a TikTok that Jake Laban, our old pal, sent you and me
yes, he did send us this.
He sent us a TikTok. That's what he's doing in his convalescence, his retirement from sports radio, sending us TikToks. This was a woman who said that to win an argument against your husband, you should tell him that he's the Angel Hernandez of doing the dishes or whatever.
I saw that TikTok.
You saw that too? Okay, then you'll know where I'm coming from with this question. What are you the Angel Hernandez of? Because now Angel Hernandez has become a name that is synonymous with being bad at your job. So with that in mind, what are you the Angel Hernandez of?
Unbunching the shower curtain after I get out of the shower. Abby has to ask me all the time, and I know I need to do it. I get into the shower thinking I have to pull it back so it doesn't get gross and moldy, and I forget every time. The other day, I got out of the shower, and I was sitting. Our bathroom is right next to our bedroom. I got out and I'm sitting on the bed, putting my socks on or whatever, and I just hear shh in the bathroom, and I yelled out, "Damn it!" Because I knew it. I knew I forgot. And yeah, it's that. It's reopening the shower curtain.
Mine is probably saying I'm going to do something the next day, and then it's like a week later and I hadn't done it. Like
Just
with
following through in general.
no, like to-do list stuff.
No,
Not like actually
get
following through on things like to-do list stuff. Like I did my taxes
Eventually.
3 days before they were due,
Yeah.
which I usually do
No, I still have smoke
months in
detectors put up.
advance.
I know what you mean.
My whole car and registration and license thing, that my dad keeps advising me to get my oil changed because I drove all the way here,
Yeah,
You should definitely
you
do
should
that.
do that.
and I still haven't done.
The
No, I get it though, man. I do.
I did get my oil changed like the week before I did drive here.
That's good.
So he's like, but you should get it done now.
It has been over 3 months since then, and you did drive halfway across the country.
Yeah.
I just keep in mind.
Yeah.
I am the Angel Hernandez of folding a fitted sheet.
Okay, I can see it.
Just never turns out right.
Okay.
And I know, like, theoretically how to do it, and I follow some of the steps, like Angel Hernandez. He occasionally gets a strike call right, but
he wears the mask. He knows where to stand. he doesn't. After that, it's all.
yeah, it ends up just looking bad and wrinkly, and I can't figure it out.
That right there is why I take it off, go wash it,
Put
dry
it
it,
right back on.
and put it right back on.
My man got one fitted sheet.
Yeah, when the girlfriend moves in, a lot of stuff probably going to change, and that's probably one of them.
We have all lived through something very similar to this in a recent period. You've been married for almost 2 years now.
Coming up on 2 years in June, yeah.
My 2-year anniversary was last week. Spencer's about to move in with his girlfriend. All have gone through something like this very similarly, very recently. I also had, I think, one set of sheets. And if they needed to be washed, you just wash them. And then you
Well,
put them back on.
We also know you didn't have a bowl
Well,
and
yeah.
Tupperware.
I
there
also-
for a while. One of the all-time great 580 Sports Talk moments when Jake gave you money out of his wallet.
That is true. That did
to
happen.
go, and that conversation started, we were talking about Dante DiVincenzo, and it ended with,
Wait, did it really?
yes,
I didn't remember
we're
that.
going, yeah, and it ended with, we're going to buy you Tupperware.
God, I hate Dante DiVincenzo. Actively rooting against the Knicks because he's on that team. So many Villanova players are on the team.
Yes.
We'll get to this in the playoff roundup. What's your question today?
Food question.
Okay.
So I apologize if it makes you hungry. Food, favorite iteration of Mexican food? Tacos, nachos, as my mic moves here, quesadillas, burritos, bowls like they have at Chipotle, or enchiladas. It's as
This is what you're,
So
like,
any
what's your
sort of
or-
way you
what's
eat
your
Mexican food.
order at a Mexican food restaurant, basically.
yeah. Or what do you make when you have taco night?
Okay, so in terms of like multi-purpose or just anywhere, like, okay, we're going to unnamed Mexican restaurant. What are you going to order? It'd be a burrito. But if I'm at a sit-down Mexican place, I'm probably getting enchiladas.
I love enchiladas. I also like to make enchiladas. That to me is the most fun thing to
Yeah.
make.
I have a recipe I need to try out.
It's a little more intricate than making tacos, but a little more involved. But I love making enchiladas. I just also love going out for tacos. Like, there's a lot of real good taco joints, quiet as it's kept, sometimes in Topeka, that you go and just get some street tacos that are incredible. I love all Mexican. I'm not gonna lie to you. The answer is really all of them. I'll eat anything Mexican. You know what hits at a sit down Mexican restaurant? Like, if you go to a new place and you're not sure, get the chimichanga. That goes crazy every single time.
My one hot take here is I will pass on a bowl. I want a tortilla with it. I want some kind of tortilla with
That's
it.
fair. A conveyance system
Yes.
that isn't a force.
Some kind of carb.
I'm a big quesadilla guy.
Okay.
My wife loves quesadillas.
I make my own quesadillas with different inventions.
I mean, that's like,
I make like a pizza quesadilla all the time. That hits.
that sounds pretty good.
That just sounds like pizza.
It's like a calzone. It's like a Mexican
Yes,
calzone.
but it's not with bread. It's with
Tortilla, though.
with tortilla
No, that
that are,
sounds good.
that
I'd
are
eat
slightly
that.
healthier than your normal tortilla.
I would eat that. My wife made some really good baked quesadillas the other day. Oh, man. they
That
were
sounds
delicious.
good.
Luckily for me, I am going out for Mexican food tonight, so this is not.
Well, there
anything-
you are. I had meal prep Mexican all week, so
There you go. That's the move. Coming up next, could Dylan Edwards be moving back to Kansas? We'll discuss coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Dylan Edwards went to Derby High, state champion at Derby as a running back, one of the top running back recruits in the country last year, was at one point committed to K-State, backed out of it, committed to Colorado. Also had interest from Oklahoma.
Committed to Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, that's right.
Then backed out when Deion got the job
At Colorado
because he had a relationship with Deion Sanders going back to when he was like 7 years old.
Yeah, he coached him.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a prime youth football player.
Yes.
Went to Colorado, was their leading rusher this past season.
Which is not saying much because Colorado couldn't run the ball worth a damn.
No, he didn't even have 400 yards rushing, I believe.
I was going to say, was he actually their leading rusher? I knew stats.
Yeah. I mean, he's a very talented kid. Like, very, very talented football player.
He was awesome against TCU when it was obvious that TCU had no idea what to expect from the Colorado offense. And then he was a little less awesome the rest of the season. There were certainly flashes. Like, all told, it was probably a year you're pretty happy with for a true freshman in a power conference, particularly for a team with no offensive line. Like, any running back rushing statistics for last year's Colorado Buffaloes have to include the caveat their offensive line was wretched, truly and deeply wretched,
and will be again this year. There is something to be said about the fact that a kid who Dylan Edwards was considering going to Jackson State. This was a Notre Dame commit who was openly willing to go to Jackson State when Deion Sanders was there. Loves the dude. Deep-rooted connection. Spent 1 year at Colorado and is leaving.
Yeah.
And is going to get a lot of attention.
And I know, like, Colorado recently did get a commit out of the portal from Dallin Hayden, who was running back number 3 at Ohio State last year. Was a pretty big-time recruit. And so that might be writing on the wall that it wasn't going to be Dylan Edwards is the man as a sophomore. And maybe that led to Edwards going to the portal. But it is still very surprising. Like, of all the guys, this is just shy of like if Travis Hunter had hit the portal. Like, there is as much connection between Edwards and Deion Sanders as there is like Travis Hunter and Deion Sanders. And Edwards has decided after 1 year he's had enough of that program and playing there, and he wants to look elsewhere. And if you read Avery Johnson's social media today, he's made it clear that he'd like his buddy to come join him in Manhattan.
Listen, for football reasons, you should want, if you're a K-State fan, you should want Dylan Edwards in Manhattan. He is a very talented football player.
Dudes win games, and he's a dude. He's got speed. He can catch passes, impact the game in that way. K-State needs a compliment to DJ Giddens out of the backfield. Right now, their running back depth behind him is a giant question mark, and Giddens only has 1 more year of eligibility, where Edwards has at least, he has 2 at least. Yeah, this would be an absolute no-brainer. Unless there is something behind the scenes, hard feelings about how he decommitted from Kansas State in the first place that we're not publicly privy to, which that's hard to imagine because I think there's an understanding if you lose a kid to Notre Dame, it's because it's Notre Dame. Like, that's the way it goes, especially in the NIL era. Sometimes you're going to lose a kid, and that's just the way it goes. And then Notre Dame lost him to Colorado because of the Coach Prime connection. But I have read a lot of stuff on social media. I was reading the message boards this morning. A lot of K-State fans saying, no thanks, don't want him. He's entitled. He's a diva. He's this, he's that. All I'm saying is be prepared to delete some tweets.
Dog, he's going to go for 15 carries, 125 yards, and those same people are going to embarrass themselves trying to be like, oh my God, he's my favorite K-State player ever.
Yeah.
Like, guys, here's a couple things. I am going to make a guess here. This is my estimation. If you are upset, if you're a K-State fan and are upset about the Dylan Edwards thing and don't want him to come to K-State, you feel more passionately about this than Chris Kleiman and staff do. That is my estimation. Because you know what Chris Kleiman and Matt Wells and Connor Riley, you know what their job is? Winning football games. You know what helps win football games? Dudes like Dylan Edwards.
Yeah.
Who is a good player. And is he a diva? Maybe. I don't know. Is he entitled? I don't know. I don't know the kid. I don't know Leon, his dad. I don't know. I have no idea. Is he a bag chaser? Who cares? This is the game. Okay? And I know that a lot of people don't like it. And frankly, I don't know that I like, just from a fan perspective, every part of it. But this is the game nowadays. You got to pay to get players.
Mhm.
You got to do it. And some guys are going to just go to wherever they can get the most money. I get it. And again, I don't know. I haven't talked to the kid. I've never met Dylan Edwards. Maybe after this year, he thought, dang, you know what? Maybe going and playing near home where my dad played, maybe that would have been the best for me. And maybe I love Coach Prime and I like Shador and I like Travis and these other guys. But you know what? I could be the star if I went back to K-State. And maybe that was the right situation for me. Maybe that's how he feels. Maybe he just wants to get an NIL payday. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't think we should care.
Maybe.
I really don't.
I feel like I'll be developed more as a player in a different program.
Yeah.
And you've got guys leaving Colorado openly talking about, like, that's what they're looking for is I'd like to be developed as a player.
Maybe I'd like to go somewhere
And
where I'm going to have the same teammates 2 years in a row.
Not be a
Yeah.
character on a reality television show.
Well, and I mean, clearly K-State's looking for a running back. Fitz said it when we had him on the show Friday.
Mhm.
That's somebody a position they're going to target before fall camp opens in June,
Mhm.
and it just makes sense.
I mean, that's your best running back duo. I guess it depends what you think of Neal and Highshaw. It's either because, I mean, Ollie Gordon's elite, obviously, at Oklahoma State. Taj Brooks coming back at Tech, he's really good. But in terms of a 1-2 punch,
And I think
it's probably the two Kansas schools.
and Edwards complements Giddens so well.
So
Like, their
well.
skill sets are different enough that you can really show a different look. It makes all the sense in the world. It would be awesome if he came to K-State.
I am certain K-State, as an organization, their feelings are much less hurt than the fans. More NFL draft coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. now. 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday, 4 o'clock hour coming your way. I'm Brendan. That's Dan. That's Spencer. We're here with you until 6 o'clock. Royals baseball coming up tonight. Game 2, Royals and Blue Jays. We'll preview the second game of the series coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Michael Wacha versus Kevin Gausman tonight. Kevin Gausman from Dan's high school.
That's right. Grandview High School. High school teammates with my younger brother.
Michael Wacha, not from mine or Spencer's high school. I don't know where he's from originally.
That's a great question. Played college ball at Texas A&M.
He's from Iowa.
Oh, Iowa City. How about that?
Iowa City, Iowa. He did he go to college? Yeah, Texas A&M. You literally just said that.
I did.
Yeah, he went to Texas A&M. Sorry. You ever have that happen where you're thinking ahead for something, so you sort of hear by osmosis? It's like, oh, wait a minute. Yes, you have done that.
The closest professional athlete / whatever I've gone to high school with is a national championship winning college baseball player.
That's something.
Coastal Carolina. And then 2 national championship at the FCS level football players that went to James Madison.
Makes sense.
That's about the
adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did play against a guy that when I was a freshman on the freshman team in basketball. He went on to play at Miami, was in the tournament last year.
Who was that?
Wooga Poplar?
Jordan Mills? I can't
It's not Wooga Poplar.
Not Wooga Poplar.
He went to George Mason and then he transferred to Miami.
I don't know if I've told you this. I went to high school with the Eagles kicker.
Yes.
Jake Elliott. Yeah, we sat next to each other in English and had swimming lockers next to each other.
I went to college with the current head football coach at Purdue, Ryan Walters.
Yeah.
That's
high school.
High school, yes.
Yeah.
That is the most famous person I graduated high school with, which makes me probably the second most famous person that anybody who knows us graduated from high school with.
We'll get to more from the NFL draft here.
The weakest brag in history, right? Like the weakest flex possible.
It's funny, though.
I mean,
Jordan Miller was the guy's name.
Jordan Miller.
There might be pockets of Kansas I'm more famous than Ryan Walters. Who knows?
That's probably true.
People out there know me, but you might not know who coaches football at Purdue.
That is absolutely true. We'll get to more from the NFL draft here momentarily. We've got today's What Is Wrong With You coming up and Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain later on this hour. Time for your 4 o'clock keyword for the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest. Head to 580wibw.com. You have until 5 o'clock on the dot to enter your 4 o'clock hour keyword, which is prize. 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 Again, 580wibw.com. Click on Choose Your Trip. Enter the keyword, and you will be entered to win a trip to anywhere you want to go. Free entry over at 580wibw.com. Text line is open. That's the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. And you can also find us on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, the name of our YouTube channel. I wanted to get your takes on your guys for the draft. So I've broken this down into 3 different categories. Fits for the Chiefs in the first round, specifically at pick 32. Maybe even a guy who you want to move up for. That's how much of a perfect fit you think they are. Your favorite fits for the Chiefs in the later round, so anywhere on days 2 or 3. And then just guys across the rest of the draft who are your guys. Guys who you think, no, I am hitching my wagon. This guy is going to be a player. Like when I thought N'Keal Harry was going to be a Pro Bowler. He is not. But that was my guy. I was convinced he was going to be a dude in that class. JJ Arcega-Whiteside. We talked about him the other day. Same kind of thing. Just I know he's going to be good. Those guys weren't, but the same kind of principle. I would like to request when we get to that part of this segment that we avoid the most obvious players. If it's a first-round talent, fine, but let's avoid the Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams
the
is
Marvin
my
Harrison.
guy, though, like, obviously.
Yeah, like
Marvin Harrison Jr., like, I'm betting on him.
Yes, I would too, but it's too easy. Those guys, top part of the draft, too easy. So let's avoid those
outside of the obvious top 10 picks.
Yes, exactly. So let's start here with the Chiefs. We have a couple each for each of these. If you have more than 2, that's fine. But
we want to hear yours too.
Yes.
You hit us on the Top City Metal Supply text line 785-272-9429, or jump in the YouTube comments, the Twitter comments, the Facebook comments if you're watching on there.
Yes, we would love to know, guys, you want the Chiefs to take, or just guys, college guys. I assume we're going to hear a lot of Ben Sinnott's name probably.
Which we've heard over text
Yes.
so much. Lately.
Exactly. Let us know, guys, who you are riding with. You think wherever they went to school, they will be a good NFL player. Let's start with the Chiefs in the first round, pick number 32. Dan, we will start with you. Just guys who are perfect fits. You think that is the must-have guy or guys at number 32?
I think A.D. Mitchell is the ideal wide receiver pick at 32. I think his combination of size and route running ability and big play ability is what the Chiefs are missing. So I really like A.D. Mitchell a lot. But if Mitchell, for whatever reason, isn't there and they hang tight at 32 and they still draft a wide receiver, I like Troy Franklin a whole lot. And I would take him at 32.
Interesting.
Because I think that he's also got that ability to play the X and has big time separation ability. What do we always talk about with Chiefs wide receivers?
Got to separate.
The ability to separate. He's got that. He's great. His first couple of steps off the line of scrimmage, legitimately great. And I think that gives him a chance to be a big time playmaker. I know there's some concerns about drops with him. I think a lot of that can be remedied. Just simple focus. Honestly, I think drops are a focus issue. I think drops are your head's not where it needs to be issue, and that can be remedied. I don't think you have stone hands. I think you have bad focus, Kadarius Toney. I think that a guy coming in with, he maybe dropped a couple of passes in college. Focus. This ball's coming at you from Patrick Mahomes. Don't screw it up. Mm-hmm. I think you can fix that. So those are my fits as wide receivers. I think they will either take a wide receiver or an offensive tackle with the first pick, their first pick of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite fits at 32 for the Chiefs are Jordan Morgan and Patrick Paul.
Okay.
Because I think those guys are surefire offensive tackles.
Mm-hmm.
And guys who I feel best about if you've got to start one of those week one.
Okay. So
those are my fits at 32 for the Chiefs.
Is there anything specific about Paul that really stands out? Because he has, over the last 2 weeks, he went from like, he's a fourth round guy to all of a sudden so much hype about him. Is there something about him that has really stood out to you?
He's huge. He's 6'8".
He's very large.
Absolutely huge. And I think his ability
sounds like a Bengal.
Yeah, he does. But I think he has the ability to shut down the speed rush with his length, with his punch, that will give him the opportunity to be, I think, really effective against some of the speed rushers in the AFC West.
Spencer, what about you? Who are the guys that are the best fits for the Chiefs at 32?
I don't think someone will like this over there. Lad McConkey.
So
I think he's going to be there at 32
mm-hmm.
for one, and two, he's got sneaky, shifty speed.
Mm-hmm.
Sneaky speed.
I said sneaky, shifty speed.
Threw in the extra caveat there.
If he's shifty, he can get around guys.
He's got a high motor. He's a lunch pail guy. He's all those things.
See, I knew he would say something like this and not let me finish my take.
Go ahead.
I think he can do it all. He wasn't relied upon necessarily to do it all last
mm-hmm.
year, but if you watch his highlight tape, deep shots, shallow catches,
mm-hmm.
screens, trick plays.
So I guess the question for McConkey then, based on what Dana said and how I feel about him too, because I would not have a problem with that pick. It would not be my top choice. I would not have a problem with that pick. Where do you think the ceiling is for him? Like, do you think he's the kind of guy who can be a number one or a high number two behind Rice? Does he feel like a guy who high floor, low ceiling? Like, what do you see as the projection for him?
I think he could be a number one receiver in the National Football League. And I think Hollywood Brown is here for a year. And Brett Veach made that known
mm-hmm.
in his press conference last week. He literally said, we hope we have a good season and hope he sets himself up for a good future, is what he said. Almost verbatim.
Yeah.
There's a little paraphrasing there, but he knows that he's only going to get Hollywood Brown for a year. If you're at 32 and you get a guy like Lade McConkey who can do it all, I think he can do it all. If they don't go that route, I think Veach could trade up for a corner, Kool-Aid McKinstry or Nate Wiggins. They'd need somebody to replace L'Jarius Sneed.
Mm-hmm.
And either of those guys would be good fits doing so.
Interesting going with the cornerback there. I saw Pro Football Talk. They had the Chiefs going cornerback. Ennis Rakestraw from Missouri. I do not think Rakestraw is a first-round talent. I do not. I don't think he's a first-round athlete more than anything. That's who PFT had. I can see that going with corner. I have one wide receiver here as a perfect fit, and it's AD Mitchell. You've heard me talk about him. I think this, to me, is starting to feel a little reminiscent, and I know I'm gassing up the guy a ton. This starts to feel to me a little bit reminiscent of 19? Is that when CeeDee Lamb was drafted? Was that the 29 or 2020? It was 2020 class, because you had the top three. Everyone had a top three of Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs. Somehow Ruggs went first of everyone because it's the Raiders and he was the fast guy.
Yes.
CeeDee Lamb has clearly been the best. I liked Lamb a lot. He was my second of the group because I thought Jeudy was going to be a stud. I thought his route running was so advanced for a college player. And it turns out that he's kind of a diva and
bit of a
has effort issues.
Yeah.
And is a knucklehead. Yeah, that's a good word for it. And has now been traded since then. Who's the best wide receiver from that class?
The CeeDee Lamb.
No, from the whole class.
From
Not from that three,
class.
from the whole class.
Justin Jefferson.
Justin
right?
Jefferson.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I think AD Mitchell's going to be better than Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm not, because I think Harrison's going to be really good. AD Mitchell can do anything. He's got size. He's a physical catcher. Maybe he's not a great yak guy, similar to Harrison, actually. But I love everything he does. There's nothing in his game where I think, it's a clear weakness. I just think he's a very complete player with room to grow. I think he's got a little bit lower floor than a Harrison does or an Odunze does. But I think that the ceiling is almost as high as either of those guys. He's good at everything. It's just, if you want a true boundary receiver for the Chiefs, I don't think you could do better where they're drafting than to go get AD Mitchell. Lineman-wise, I actually have a little bit of a different approach than you guys. I really like Suamataia as the offensive lineman here. I think Paul makes a lot of sense. I think moving up to go get, if you really like Guyton, who, what was the line from PFF a week or two ago? What's better than one Project Oklahoma tackle? Two Project Oklahoma tackles. I think Guyton has a better pedigree than Wanya Morris did. I like Suamataia for the reason that I think he's higher floor, lower ceiling, but I think you're steady. And that's something the Chiefs have kind of lacked at left tackle for a while. Even with Brown for a couple of years, there wasn't a lot of steadiness. Suamataia is not going to blow you away with his athleticism or his skills or anything, but I think he's just a very good player. I think he's got a chance that he could win the job right away, certainly by year 2, and you just have a rock there for 4 or 5 years. And I think that's something the Chiefs could really use. You don't need an elite guy there. I don't think you have to swing for the high ceiling, low floor guy like a Mims or a Guyton. I think you can just get what you need with Suamataia. So a little bit of a different approach, but I like his steadiness at left tackle. Later in the draft, guys that rounds 2 through 7, you feel like we've heard them in mock drafts and you love it, or you just think they are a perfect fit for Kansas City. Who would they be?
I'm going to give you 4 names. 2 of them at defensive tackle who we've discussed quite a bit.
All right.
Mason Smith and Tavondre Sweat in the middle rounds are guys.
I've got Mason Smith as well, for the record.
I think that gambling on the upside in the middle rounds with the defensive tackle is a worthwhile move. It
I like that.
a Chiefs kind of move. And that's what you're doing, I think, with both of those guys. With Smith, it's recovery from injury. With Tavondre Sweat, it's turning his brain on. But either way, there's ceiling with both of those guys, and I think that's a worthwhile gamble. At defensive back, we haven't talked about this guy at all. You just mentioned a Missouri defensive back. I'm going to give you another one. Chris Abrams-Drain. I think he's a Chiefs kind of defensive back.
Okay.
Versatile, playmaker, physical. I like him a lot. I think whoever drafts him is going to get a really good player that could play any manner of roles, I think, in the Chiefs defense.
Chiefs have a good relationship with the folks at Missouri, too. Always have.
And at running back, we talked about him yesterday, Kamani Vidal. Not big, but everything else he does is Chiefs running back down to the marrow. And I think he'd be good enough to start for a lot of teams. I really do. I think you'd see a lot of Kamani Vidal as a rookie if the Chiefs drafted him in round 4 or 5.
I like all those. Are you at all concerned with Sweat about the off-the-field stuff? Or do you think the Chiefs can keep him insulated enough?
I would hope that the Chiefs, like if you draft him, that's what you're hoping, right? Is that the organization is capable of reining in those impulses, whatever they may be. It might just be somebody being young and stupid. I mean, it might not be. It might be he's just bad guy, bad apple. I haven't talked to Tavondre Sweat. I don't know. I can't judge him one way or another. But
He's a hell of a football player. I know that.
The talent is big time. And if you feel good enough about him as a person and feel like, hey, he's got a good heart, he's just not got his head all the way screwed on, and maybe being a professional and being in a professional locker room, being around grown men will set him straight, then I think you make that draft pick, and you're probably pretty happy with how that turns out.
Spencer, you said you had Mason Smith. Who else do you have as good Chiefs fits later on?
Will Shipley.
Okay, I have
Straight
him too.
up. I think he could be a great guy in the 3rd, 4th round.
Yeah, I love that pick.
Derek Pooney.
Dominic
Pooney, excuse me. Those, and then Mason Smith. Those are my 3.
No, that I like that list a lot. We'll get to Pooney here in a minute. I have Will Shipley on my list. I have 2. I have a real David Duke set of answers here. I got Will Shipley first, though. I think he's a perfect fit for the Chiefs, honestly. If you think he can pass protect, take him. Absolutely take him. And the same thing for Vidal, who you mentioned. I'd be happy with that. I like that pick in whoever's mock that was yesterday. Was that Nick Jacobs? I think it was. I like that pick a lot. A guy who can have a little burst, who can catch the ball and can pass protect. If you get those things, that's who you want as your running back pick. 4th round, Will Shipley. I love that. Every single mock we've seen with that, I'm a big fan. The other one, to finish the joke, I like Luke McCaffrey a lot. That's why I think it is important, though, to get, if you're going to take a guy like McCaffrey later, and I know you can't really plan for this, you want a guy who's going to play on the boundary with your earlier receiver pick, whether that's 1st or 2nd round. I like McCaffrey. I think he's limited. I think he is a slot-only guy in the NFL. I don't think he's running the full route tree for you at the professional level, but I do like some of his traits. Good pedigree, obviously, being a McCaffrey. I like him. It would have to be 6th or 7th round, so 6th, you'd have to trade back to get him. But I like him. I think that's a nice complementary piece to kind of refresh that slot group. Outside of the Chiefs, I've got a big list here, guys. Guys who are just your guys. You just see them, after the top 10 to 15 picks, and you say, that dude is going to be a contributor. He's going to be a good NFL player.
So I'll give you 2 guys that are probably going to hear their names called on Thursday, but
okay.
I think are maybe going to be taken later than they ought to be because people look at their size and question their size. Watch them make plays. Johnny Newton, defensive tackle at Illinois.
I love that one. I love it.
Undersized a little bit at defensive tackle. Okay, you know who else is undersized defensive tackle?
Aaron Donald. Yeah.
I think you're not
I love Newton, dude. That's a great pick.
You're not getting Aaron Donald, but you're getting a dude.
Yep.
If you take Johnny Newton, like if the Seahawks took him at 16, I'd be over the moon. Another guy, Chop Robinson. I know he's not prototypical D-end size. I don't think the Chiefs, he's a fit for a 4-3. Mm-hmm. You put him in a 3-4 and tell him go get the quarterback, he's gonna give you double-digit sacks. Like, honest to goodness, of all of the guys in this draft, who do I think is most likely to have double-digit sacks as a rookie? Depending on the fit, it might be Chop Robinson.
Okay.
He is so quick off the line, tremendous bend. I love that dude.
I like him. I agree, though. You got to have the right place for him. I don't think he's a square peg, round hole guy.
3 guys that are going to go later in the draft. One I'm starting to see in 2nd rounds, which is really cool. Mike Sanders out of Michigan.
Like it.
Winner.
Mm-hmm.
Culture changer.
Tough
as nails. Tremendously athletic. Position switch in the middle of college. Mm-hmm. He was a wide receiver when he came in. They switched him to slot defender, and he's terrific. I don't think the Chiefs need a slot guy, but I love Mike Sanders still. Whoever drafts him is getting a winner.
I like him too.
Best running back in the draft, Audric Estime, Notre Dame.
Ooh, I like that one.
I think he is the best running back in the draft. I think he's probably going to be the first one taken, and whoever takes him is going to be pretty happy with that. And then you mentioned my fascination with the University of Arizona. Jacob Cowing is a little undersized. Again, I don't think the Chiefs need more tiny slot guys, so I don't love this fit for the Chiefs necessarily as a wide receiver, but Jacob Cowing is going to be a playmaker as a slot receiver in the NFL. Firmly believe that.
I can see it. He's a good player. That Arizona offense was so fun. They were so much fun. Spencer, who are your guys?
My guys here, this guy's probably going to get selected anywhere from like 7 to 17.
Okay.
I think it just depends on the team's needs. Byron Murphy the 2nd,
the other Texas defensive line.
Yes.
Okay.
He's going to be a 1st round pick.
Yes.
I've watched some of his tape. I just love his pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
How he's going to pursue the ball no matter where he's at.
K-State fans, you know a lot about those Texas D linemen getting after the ball. Yeah.
Next guy, Kinsley Suamataya.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the Chiefs go elsewhere, because he'll probably be available at 32.
Oh, yeah. I would think so.
He could fall to my Commanders at 36.
Okay.
and I would love that pick
I
because they
like him.
needed a guy on the like a cornerstone type guy on the edge. They haven't had since Trent Williams.
Okay.
And then I only got one more for you. This is kind of a wild card / bias.
Okay.
Marshall guy here, Rasheen Ali, huge red zone threat. I think something of like 85% of his touchdowns are within 15 yards or within the red zone.
Jesse Newell mocked him to the Chiefs at one point. Yeah.
If he can stay healthy, I think he can be a great guy. He's coming off an Achilles injury. If he goes undrafted, someone's getting a steal.
I think, did he end up on the all juice team from Therese? Well, it's not Therese who does it obviously anymore, but he might have been an all juice team guy. Or someone had a list of their favorite underrated prospects and had Ali.
Yeah, I mean, he went
it.
to the Senior Bowl, and that's when he ruptured his Achilles.
Chiefs love Senior Bowl guys, but
They do.
He didn't get to show out at the Senior Bowl,
I
unfortunately.
mean, I think he could be a guy that you throw in there fourth down back, or third down back, a guy that you go to within the red zone just based upon what he's done in college.
Yeah, that is my list for you. A couple that we've already gotten to. I've got 2 Oregon players. Troy Franklin. I like Troy Franklin. I don't know if he's a Chiefs fit. I like him. I know he doesn't have great testing speed, but he's just open all the time. Love Troy Franklin. And Bucky Irving. We talked about him yesterday. I would put him as running back number 2 in this class. I like Estime. My number 1, Trey Benson from Florida State. I like him a lot. I like Estime. I like Bucky Irving. I think he's a playmaker. And Shipley's up there too. 2 offensive linemen. Dudes who can play anywhere. Graham Barton. I think he'll be a first-round pick. I would assume he will go in the top 25. That's where Green Bay picks. If he's not gone already, I think he will end up in Green Bay. He can play anywhere. And Pooney, he's my guy. I'll give a shout out to Booker too. I know teams really like Booker. We've heard that before. I just think Dominic Pooney is such a stud. You want to talk about tough as nails. That dude is a battler. One other guy who I think will be a first-round pick along with Barton, I like Jared Verse. I think Jared Verse is better than Dallas Turner. I think he's better than Laitu Latu as well. I think he's the best edge rusher in this class. Not as good of an athlete testing-wise as those other guys, so you might get him later. My last one, this is going to sound weird. I brought up his name, I think, yesterday and maybe Friday, too. If you're going to take Bo Nix, why not wait 3 rounds and take Spencer Rattler? Seriously, what is the argument? He completed a bunch of checkdowns.
Won games. More careful with the football.
I think the upside is higher for Rattler. And I think if you're going to take an older prospect, I would take Rattler because he has a better arm. A head case, sure, but it had really toned down a bit when he got to South Carolina. I would take Rattler over Nix. I would just wait a day and just take Rattler instead if you're going to draft Bo Nix. Those are our guys. We'd love to know who yours are. Drop them in on the Top City Metal Supply text line or hit us up on YouTube with them. A quick round of What Is Wrong With You is next. Then we'll talk to Michael Swain for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. we get to Michael Swain, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk with Brendan, Dan, and Spencer. Our current winner for the week, it is the man yesterday who was so mad at noise in his hotel that he pepper sprayed a whole hallway, forced the evacuation of 100 people from the hotel. He just wanted a calm night of sleep. Well, then he went to jail. That's our current winner this week. My story is once again going to take us to Florida, Riverview, Florida, where a plumber who is also a documented gang member and convicted felon called law enforcement and threatened to shoot a state trooper this weekend. Probably not something I would do. Around 11:30 on Sunday, a trooper was conducting speed enforcement, and he saw a speeding motorcycle. So he overtook the rider on the bridge. Well, a man who was driving nearby called in to Florida Highway Patrol dispatch and said that a trooper sped past him, then stated he would shoot the trooper if he saw him again. I probably wouldn't have done that. That man was James Keister. Yeah, he's the butt man. James Keister, who is a convicted felon and a documented member of the Latin Kings gang.
Jim Butt.
The Florida Highway Patrol then called him back and said, "You do know that threatening to shoot a police officer is a criminal offense." Keister then replied by telling them he did not care and he would go to jail for it. Authorities say Keister was driving a Mr. Rooter plumbing truck that had GPS monitoring in it. They were very easily able to find him. He was then arrested and charged with threat of death or serious bodily harm of specified personnel, 2 counts of that, possession of a concealed handcuff key, okay, and unlawful use of a two-way communications device.
I have a couple questions here. Did he steal the van or is he employed?
No,
he's an employee. He's a plumber. Yeah. He called and threatened to kill a trooper from his work truck.
I am going to commit a felony. What are you going to do? Arrest me for it? Yeah, in fact, that is exactly what they're going to do.
They employ felons, convicted felons.
I guess so. And a gang member.
Yeah. To be your plumber. That'd be scary. They're coming in your house.
Look, I don't care what set you're dripping as long as you can stop my faucet from dripping.
That's true. All right, Dan, what do you got?
We're going to Portland, Oregon. An Oregon felon wanted for second-degree kidnapping, reckless endangerment, and illegal gun possession charges was tracked down in a porta potty after he led authorities on a 3-day chase through rural Lane County. 33-year-old Andrew Dimmick of Crawfordsville was seen wielding a sword and huffing nitrous oxide at 11 a.m. near Terwilliger Hot Springs on Saturday. Just having a nice Saturday morning, practicing his sword tricks and huffing a little nitrous. He left the area before Oregon State Police arrived on scene. However, a sheriff's deputy found him driving in the area, attempted to make a traffic stop. Dimmick allegedly fled from the pursuing deputy who chased him down a gravelly U.S. Forest Service road. Eventually, the vehicle stopped and Dimmick fled on foot. After several hours of searching in difficult terrain, a sheriff's canine and 2 Eugene Police Department canines were unable to locate Dimmick. After eluding authorities, Dimmick was once again spotted with a sword at Terwilliger Hot Springs. Again, I'm sure they call and say, "Hey, remember that guy with the sword yesterday? Yeah, he's back." Which guy? The one with the sword. And he was also asking for a ride into town. Deputies, Oregon State Police, Springfield Police Department, 2 law enforcement canines were dispatched to the scene, could not find Dimmick. Monday, 7:20 a.m., local residents reported seeing Dimmick near the Chevron station on Mill Creek Road. Citizens kept an eye on him until sheriff's deputies and Oregon State Police troopers arrived on scene. Authorities say Dimmick was found hiding in a porta potty. That is not a good place to hide because there's only one way out and everyone knows which way it is. He surrendered after several minutes, was booked into the Lane County Jail for outstanding charges and for fleeing a sheriff's deputy.
I'm going to pick this one to win today in the week. This is ridiculous.
Yes.
This is my new weekly winner.
Like, we all have, like, Saturday. It's the weekend. It's time to relax. It's time to go huff nitrous and practice our sword swinging.
Wait a minute. Pause. Hold on.
In public.
Same for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
New weekly winner, the nitrous huffer from Oregon in What Is Wrong With You. Michael Swain will join us next on 580 Sports Talk. of the 4 o'clock hour on a Tuesday afternoon. You know what that means. It's Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk, and that means we are welcoming in our good friend Michael Swain from Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. That's where you can go to check out all of Michael's great coverage of the Kansas Jayhawks. I tell you guys every week, go be a VIP over at 24/7, because if you're not, you are missing out on all sorts of great inside scoops you're not getting anywhere else. Make sure you're following Michael on Twitter as well at mswain247. Been a busy couple of days for you, hasn't it, Michael?
It has. Hey, man, we're that type of year. I've gone from, I think some of my fellow beer editors could probably agree with this. You've gone from knowing when you're going to work to not really knowing when you're going to work based on the decisions of high school guys or college athletes. So it's a busy time, but look, it's always, roster building generally for basketball, football, whatever. It's always interesting. So it's definitely a busy time of year.
Well, I saw you put on Twitter the other day that you had gone to the new stadium, the current game up in the Northland, and had said, can we not get breaking news for 3 hours? And I thought, man, that is quite a gamble right now. You are dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds picking future decisions. That is a big-time gamble you are taking.
Exactly right. And look, a Saturday night, sometimes you think, oh, man, like this is not the time someone's going to do anything. And then sure enough, someone will commit or something. I'm sure that's going to happen at some point here in the not too distant future, where there'll be like a Friday night or a Saturday night and someone's just like, yep, I'm going to Kansas. And then, you got to drop everything and invite it. So yeah, but honestly, I mean, the stadium's really cool. And look, it makes me even more excited to see what Memorial Stadium looks like in the future, just being around a new stadium, seeing all the different stuff you can put in the new stadium. So I'm pretty fired up now seeing that for what Memorial Stadium could look like next fall.
Well, we'll have plenty of basketball roster building to get to here today, but I actually wanted to start with football because there's been plenty of roster movement for KU football in the last couple of days, and that actually includes earlier on today, Anderson Kopp, commitment to KU football and Coach Lance Leipold. He's a legacy. He's an offensive lineman. His dad played at KU, lifelong KU fan. That's the kind of recruitment that if you're Kansas, you have to win at this point. You can't miss out on kids like that. And I know you've got a piece about this over at Fog.net, but what is KU getting in Anderson Kopp, and how is he going to help long-term on that offensive line?
Yeah, well, I think, it's so funny because I think we've talked about local recruiting on here before, right? And KU has put in a lot of effort, but not maybe seen some of the results. Well, this feels like a local recruitment, even though, Anderson lives in the Phoenix area with his family, because, he's been to Lawrence so many times. I think he's been to several football games over the last couple of years. He was at a camp last summer. Like, his visits to Lawrence resemble that of someone that lives in the Kansas City metro, like not someone that lives in the Phoenix area. So it's one of those where for KU, it's really great because obviously I think Anderson, cares a lot about Kansas, and that's why I think a lot of people like local recruiting, is because it's easy to see, hey, this kid grew up with a dream of playing for Kansas, and we're able to realize that. And that's the cool part about this. I think the football player, he's a unique prospect for Kansas, because I was thinking about this the other day, and think back, how many centers has Kansas had in the last 10 years? Like 4? Like, Kansas is actually, considering the amount of offensive line movement there's been, the center position has actually typically been pretty steady. So it's one of the few times Kansas has kind of recruited. I'm not going to, pigeonhole Anderson to say he's only a center, but you just look at what he does in the high school level, right? He's practicing all offseason to be the center at his high school next year. He's played guard and tackle in his high school career, but he has a focus on this position going forward. So you'd imagine that when he gets to Kansas, that's where he's going to be comfortable. Obviously, he can move to any one of the guard spots, but Kansas does not recruit a lot of true centers, and that's such a huge position to get in a program early and have them grow, because then they get to learn the offense, they learn the calls, what to look for, and then by the time they're a redshirt sophomore, they've been in the program for 2 years, they've been snapping for 5, 4 or 5 years at that point, and so they're really comfortable in that position rather than trying to teach someone who's been a guard their whole life how to snap, how to do all that. So I think that's really huge for Kansas to get someone that is a true center in this class. You look at the roster right now, obviously, KU had to go to the portal to get, Shane Baumgartner, a center. Behind him next offseason, you're probably looking at KU having to go and get another center in the portal too. So it's good to have a young guy in the program, starting next fall, that you can kind of look at and kind of earmark for that center spot in the long term.
We're chatting with Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly. Make sure you're checking out all his great work over at 24/7 and Fog.net, and, of course, checking him out on Twitter at mswain247. He joins us here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Transfer-wise for KU the last couple of days, with spring practice now in the books, the spring showcase in the books, there have been a handful of players who have entered the portal for one reason or another, including a couple younger guys. I know Red Martell, the running back, was one of them. Sounded like he had kind of fallen fairly low on the depth chart recently. One guy who I was fairly bummed about entered the portal. Another young guy was Saraz Bunkum, who I know was one of the somewhat more highly touted guys from last year's class. What is KU losing, and really how much is KU losing outward in the portal so far?
Well, so in terms of scholarship guys, like the younger guys you mentioned, right? Someone like Red Martell and Saraz, I think Saraz deserves a ton of credit. He did a really cool community service kind of fundraiser drive last fall for some of the homeless people in Lawrence, and that was really cool. And I think sometimes for these guys, look, there's probably a realization that, hey, how long is it going to take me to play at Kansas? Are we talking 4 years of development just to play 1 year? And look, sometimes I think the rigors of playing at Kansas, when you got to wake up at, before 5 a.m. every morning to go to practice, that could be hard. And sometimes guys are not into that side of things. And I'm not going to specifically say that's anyone in particular, but I just think generally, like, adapting in college football is hard. And I think that's something that maybe gets lost in it sometimes. So for some of the younger guys, that can be an issue. And for the older guys like Davion Westmoreland went in the portal, a former JUCO guy. He was probably third on the defensive end depth chart on the strong side. So he's someone with 2 years left to play, obviously probably wants to go somewhere and play college football. So I think a lot of this does revolve around playing time. And that's what these spring portal entries are. It's typically players that have now seen where they are in the depth chart, right? Exiting spring practice and really feel like they want to go somewhere and find a place where they can go play. Because at the end of the day, right, you've only got so many years of college football. And for a lot of guys, it's the last football they play. So you want to go find somewhere where you're able to play. So far, there's not been a Gage Keys or an Amaje Reed Adams that's gone to the portal and you're like, wow, that's a big loss. And they're going to climb up the ladder in college football. A lot of these guys I would expect probably take a step down and go somewhere where they can play, compete, and make an impact. And I think that's something you can't ever fault the player for thinking.
Let's flip over to the hardwood here, Michael, and get to the latest for KU basketball. And we'll start in the transfer portal. Not a whole lot of movement over the last couple of days. Still sounds like Rylan Griffin is target number one, the transfer from Alabama. Right now, if you're KU, and as you wait for him and the process, we'll get to Kobe Brea here in a minute as well. But as you're waiting out this process, how confident do you think Bill Self and this staff are right now that one way or another, they're going to get the pieces they need heading into next season?
I think really confident. And, you just got to look at the work they've done in the portal so far. You had someone like A.J. Storr, right? One of the top players in the portal. You had someone like Zeke Mayo, a really good scorer, local kid that's going to have a great storyline too. KU's done some great work early in the portal, and now you leave a visit with Rylan Griffin, who the coaches have known for a long time, right? They recruited him out of high school. He's the same class as Grady Dick, and they've just gotten to know him, right, in the high school side, and then he goes in the portal, and that they really made a commitment to him early, saying, hey, we know we missed on you coming out of high school, but we're not going to miss on you this time. And, when Bill Self has his eyes set on a guy, it's really hard to see him missing, right? I can't remember too many times, maybe over the last 12 months, where Self has had his eyes trained on a guy and they've missed. So I think for KU, right, you just got to make sure you get Rylan Griffin on board in the next 7 days. And from there, then you can kind of go into the final kind of stages of your portal offseason, where it depends on, hey, does anybody leave? Are you able to get Riley Kugel to sign? That's something that's still definitely up in the air and maybe isn't a sure thing right now. So there are a couple more pieces maybe to be figured out, a couple more dominoes to fall. But look, the work Kansas has done in this first kind of half of the portal offseason is so huge because it doesn't put a lot of stress on the last half that Kansas has to go out and add 3 players, right? We're talking about 1, maybe 2 more players for KU in the portal, and then it's on to the high school season. And I think that's really, really important to get on the high school scene and really build out that 2025 recruiting class.
Kobe Brea, who I mentioned a moment ago, the sharpshooter from Dayton, really talented player. He really released the other day the funniest and also most amazing top 5 destinations I think I've ever seen. It was all Blue Bloods. It was KU, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, and UConn, if I'm not mistaken. literally all blue, but also, yeah, man, I think everybody would like to choose between the 5 best programs in the entire sport these days. I mean, what is the battle for a player like that going to look like, who obviously has one major skill? I mean, he's a talented player, but one clear-cut number one skill, which is shooting, which it has been proven based on his list, every single high major could use a player like that.
Exactly. Well, what does it take? A lot of money. And that's what it comes down to, I think, a lot of times in the portal. Money and role, right? I think that's what a lot of these guys are looking for. And so I don't think, Colby Brea is any different than any other transfer. I think he is just someone that is so highly valued, because what have we seen, right? Like, you look at KU, the team that won the national title, what they have, a bunch of really good wings. You look at what UConn had, what they have, some really good wings, and obviously a really good center in Klingon. But I just think you look at what Brea is at his heart. He's a really good shooter. Is he going to be the number one athlete on the floor? No. Is he going to be the best defender on the floor? No. But, man, you make up so much of that when you can knock down threes and really change games with your floor spacing. And I think it's just going to come down to, hey, who can offer him the best role? And, for KU, it's going to be a little bit of a harder sell, because you look at AJ Storr, right? Someone that took a lot of shots at Wisconsin is going to want some shots. If KU does get Rylan Griffin on board, he's going to want his shots. Zeke Mayo, and then they're not even getting into Hunter Dickinson too. So look, there's a lot of shots that guys on KU's roster right now are going to want to have. And so it might be a tougher sell for someone like Brea, but I think, again, KU is going to go after him. They're going to try and add him. And I think Bill Self is in the mindset right now of, you go out, you add as many really good players as you can, and you kind of just figure out the roster, the minutes, and the shot selection as the season unfolds. Because as we've seen, right, the development of transfers is not always linear, right? It can take guys time to fit in. It may not take guys at all time to fit in. So I think it's one of those situations where, if you're Kansas, you just go out, you try and add as many talented players as you're allowed to with scholarships, and then from there, you kind of let it all sort itself out.
Anytime that a player like this comes up, I just think about how much I miss Isaiah Moss. I love that guy. I wanted him to win a championship in 2020 so badly. We're talking to Michael Swain, covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Go be a VIP at 24/7. All sorts of great insight into everything going on with KU basketball and football when it comes to rebuilding their respective rosters. And I wanted to follow up on something you had just mentioned, Michael, about you only have, what's the old phrase? There's only one ball, but there's all these different players and mouths you've got to feed. Do you feel like there's any concern in that regard going into next year? I mean, like you said, Zeke Mayo needs the ball because he's a scorer. AJ Storr is a scorer. If Rylan Griffin does commit, he's the guy who you want taking shots and having a chance to score. Hunter Dickinson, obviously scoring big man. KJ doesn't need the ball like that. DeJuan Harris is more than comfortable just facilitating the ball. We understand that. But does it seem at all, do you feel at all like maybe there is an issue with too many mouths to feed, or is that frankly not a problem after the roster we just saw this past year?
Well, I think, kind of as always, right, the answer lies in the middle. I think on the one hand, I'm maybe even more a little concerned about maybe minutes than I am shots, because I feel like the shots kind of sort themselves out. Whoever's open is going to get it and can shoot it. And we've got that many talented players on the floor, someone's going to get open, especially when you have Hunter Dickinson playing in the middle of that and the gravity he has. So I think for me, you look at the players, and to some degree, it kind of will sort itself out, because, look, these practices in the summer are going to be some of the best I think Kansas has had in a long, long time. Because you talk about experienced college basketball players who have been around. There's not going to be we've got to get this, 5-star freshman because he's going to start, got to get him acclimated. No, like, it's guys that have been around college basketball. And yes, they're really talented freshmen, Rakees Passmore, Floyd Badunga, LeBaron Philon. Like, those guys are going to have to be integrated. But I'm fascinated to see how these practices go, because I think the hierarchy within the team will be set by the way those practices go. Because the guys that are really freaking good are going to stand out to the other guys on the team. You want to know what DeJuan Harris is going to do? Whoever those guys are that stand out in the summer, they're going to be the ones that are getting the ball when practices really do start to pick up in October. So I think the shots kind of will figure themselves out. It's almost, for me, more really fascinating to think about what the minutes look like. Because, again, there's only so many minutes you can have. Bill Self spent, the last several weeks of the season talking about KU's lack of depth. Well, depth won't be an issue next year. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see how the minutes shake out, because I think you got more guys that want to start than there will be starting spots. So I think that's always a tough juggling act for a head coach.
Last thing I've got for you, Michael, a high school visitor this past weekend as well, Darius Acuff, one of the top point guards in the 2025 class. And I hear talented point guard, and I immediately think Bill Self. So how did things go from what you know this weekend? And if Acuff is indeed near the top of the board for KU, I can't imagine why he wouldn't be. What kind of player is he that KU is targeting?
Well, I think something you got to keep in mind here, too, is, DeJuan Harris is going to enter his last college basketball season this fall. So for KU, it's kind of a unique opportunity where for the first time in, 3 years, they really can go out and recruit a high school point guard and tell them, hey, you can come in and play a big role early on if you show us you are ready. And, of course, they'll also add in there, hey, we believe you're ready to do this. Darius is not maybe the best defender in the world, but look, he can score. He has really good body control. Maybe a little bit of something like Devon Dotson, maybe not the same exact level of speed, but in terms of maybe stature and the way he attacks the rim, I think his three-point shot probably is a little bit better than what Devon's was going into college. I think KU's got, as good a shot as anybody. Like I mentioned earlier, Bill Self sets his mind on guys these days. It can be very hard to say no. And when you've got a role to pitch a guy on, like Darius, when you can say, hey, we've just had a point guard run the offense for the last, 4 years, 3-4 years, hey, come in and be the guy that can come run this team and lead this team into a different era. And I think that can be really attractive. So look, high school recruiting is always tough with basketball because right, very limited number of guys, they are very coveted, and it's hard to kind of, if guys don't commit right away, there's things that can happen. So I think for KU, it's just about after the visit, continue to put the full court press on. And I think we saw it last year with Florida Belunga, right? He visited KU in May, committed in August. Obviously, KU did a lot of work with them between the visit and the commitment, but they're able to get him on board. I think it could be something similar this time with Acuff.
The best coverage of the Kansas Jayhawks comes from Michael Swain and Fog.net. It's part of the 24/7 Sports Network. I cannot emphasize enough how badly you need to be a VIP over at 24/7 if you want the best insight, the best scoops into everything going on with KU football and basketball. Michael joins us every Tuesday at this time on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. As always, Michael, we appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the busy stretch here, the roster-building stretch, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.
That's Michael Swain from Fog.net joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got 1 hour left of the program coming up. We'll lead it off with our headlines, plus we will get to our Royals preview coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. go. Final hour of 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you for the final hour of the show today before we get to Royals baseball against the Blue Jays tonight. Pre-game coverage at 6 o'clock. First pitch, 6:40, right here on the Royals Radio Network on 580 WIBW. We've got a lot to get to in our 580 Sports Talk headlines to lead off this 5 o'clock hour here in just a few moments. You are welcome to join us on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. No more wasted money and no more wasted material because Top City Metal Supply will cut the exact lengths of aluminum, steel, and stainless steel you need tailored to your project's specifications. Find them on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field here in the capital city. We also will take your comments on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. And we've got a keyword for you loyal listeners who have been with us all day, or those of you who are just tuning in. We've got your 5 o'clock hour keyword for the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest. It is a free contest. You can enter on our website, 580wibw.com. And the prize is a trip to wherever you want to go. Airfare included, luxury hotel, various other experiences, all included. You just have to answer or enter this keyword. It is only active until 6 o'clock, and then we'll not have another keyword for you until tomorrow here on the program. Your keyword for the 5 o'clock hour is radio, R-A-D-I-O, radio. So go to 580wibw.com. Click on the Choose Your Trip link on the homepage, and then enter the keyword for the 5 o'clock hour, radio, and you'll be entered to win a trip to anywhere you want to go with the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip 2024 contest. Diving on into our 580 Sports Talk headlines for this afternoon, let's go to the college basketball world to continue on a larger overall thought after talking to Michael Swain at the end of last hour. Appreciate Michael hopping on and joining us today. Some transfer portal news for you. We'll get to K-State in a moment. Other news from around the country first. Duke, unsurprisingly, is the transfer destination for Mason Gillis, the former sixth man for the Purdue Boilermakers. Very talented shooter, really good glue guy. That's really his thing. He's a very solid glue guy. That's what Duke needs. Duke needs a couple of veterans. They've got almost nobody returning from last year.
He also shot 47% from three, which...
Yeah, really good shooter.
That'll play.
Yeah, really, really good shooter. So he is headed to Duke. That's not a surprise. From high school recruiting, Carter Knox, 5-star prospect. He has committed to Arkansas. That makes a whole lot of sense when you realize that he was originally committed to Kentucky.
Is he related to Kevin Knox, who played at Kentucky?
I don't know. I do not know.
Since he spells the Carter with a K, that kind of feels like they could be brothers.
Yes. His brother, Kevin Knox II, was drafted by the Knicks in 2018.
Yeah. Didn't have much of an NBA career, but he was a good college player for his 1 year.
Yeah.
He was a lottery pick, I think.
He was. Yeah. He went 9th overall. His dad was also Kevin Knox. He played in the NFL for a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean literally one season with the Arizona Cardinals. Then was on the practice squad for a year with the Cardinals. Also spent some time with the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Rhine Fire of the... At the time, it would have been, the World League of Football?
World League of American Football, I think so.
Yeah, before it became NFL Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Rhine Fire. So he's going to Arkansas. That is not a surprise to anyone who follows such things. Also from the greater college basketball world, a home and home for UConn and Texas. Starting this year, they will play in Austin, and then they will have the return trip in Connecticut coming up in the 2025-26 season. So UConn back-to-back year, in fact, overlapping, will have home and homes with KU and Texas. Pretty impressive.
That is fun.
Yeah.
Good for UConn for scheduling like a big dog.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Unlike some programs that we just mentioned who refuse to play true road games because they're cowards. That's Duke. I'm talking about Duke. They're cowards. They do have, Duke does a home and home scheduled with Arizona, I believe. Unless they've canceled that too.
Yeah, maybe they will. Maybe they'll think better of it.
Cowards. From the local perspective, we already talked a bunch of KU with Michael Swain moments ago. So let's get to K-State. Some portal visitors coming up for K-State. Clifford Omaruyi. Do you know? Omaruyi.
I think.
Big Cliff.
Clifford he used to play for a red team. So
Yes.
he was the big red center for Rutgers.
Omoruyi, he is the big man from Rutgers, 6'11", 240 pounds, really talented player. KU showed a little interest for a while. That faded because pretty much everyone expects Hunter Dickinson is coming back to KU.
Omori.
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't overdo it.
Don't overdo the Y.
Omori. Clifford Omori.
All right,
from Nigeria.
Yes, thank you.
He was a top 50 prospect coming out of high school. He's a big deal.
Yeah, really, really talented player. He is going to visit K-State. Is it this weekend when he is visiting? This coming weekend?
I think it's this week.
It is this week. It ends Friday. Thank you.
I think it starts tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow through Friday, the normal 3-day visit. And Khalif Battle, who's a 6'5" wing, played for Arkansas this past season, had a 40-point game, averaged just under 15 points per contest. Can never have enough wings who can score.
And they need to get bigger at the guard spots and the wing spots.
Both of those, I think, would be good additions for K-State. Let me offer you this hypothetical question. You only get one. They could get two, but if you could only have one.
Omori.
Okay.
Yeah, not they gotta get a big, man.
Yeah.
We don't know what the big man rotation looks like.
Yeah.
They gotta get a big. And Omori is the prototype big. Because he's not a volume scorer back to the basket, like post up big. He's a rim running big. He's a get deep and offensive rebound and score big. And he's a block a bunch of shots big on the other end of the floor. Like that's what K-State is looking for from their big man. And Omori fits the bill.
Yeah, that's who I would go with as well. Battle's a good player. He's a really good scorer.
Bucket getter, yeah.
There are also some whispers out there that some other transfers, including one from Arkansas, could be taking visits to K-State. That's not confirmed yet, but here's the next step for Kansas State. Get one of these guys. They have landed so far, I would say in 2 years, K-State has landed a big fish in each year. Keontae Johnson, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That was a big-time get.
And
Kaluma.
I would consider Kaluma to be a big fish.
Yeah, Kaluma was a big-time get.
So if you can land a guy like this, I think Doug McDaniel's a really nice player. I am excited for K-State to have Doug McDaniel, to have a true number one point guard. He is not the same kind of transfer prospect, I think, either of these two guys, either Battle or Omori.
I'd say he's a better prospect than Battle.
Really?
More eligibility, I think, is the biggest thing. More eligibility.
Okay,
yeah. Just based on that, I would give McDaniel the nod.
Okay. Omori? Is that what it was?
Omori. Yeah.
Omori. Okay. I wanted to check out. I looked at a couple of these players earlier, but I wanted to see specifically where some of these guys were ranked. The Athletic has, now it's not popping up for me. The Athletic in 24/7, some prospects they are very similar on, some they have wildly different rankings on. So I wanted to see exactly where. I think Battle ranks somewhere in the middle of the Athletics rankings. And it's not helping me out. The search feature.
I couldn't find Battle on their
okay.
Their rankings at the Athletic. Omori was 20th.
Yes, and they have McDaniel 31st.
But yeah, back to your broader point. Like, you want to win a battle for somebody.
Yes.
Pun not intended. Like, you want to be able to get the player who some other big fish want in their program. And it's not that K-State hasn't done that, but you got to do that a little bit more often if you want to have a real edge in the transfer portal.
Yes. No, that's as simple as it can be. So go out, get one of these guys. I agree. You need the big man more like you need him worse. That is the position you're in if you're K-State. But this is a big deal. You're getting a lot of big visits if you're Jerome Tang. Go land a couple of them.
First headline for me. How about a little draft rumor mongering? Mike Silver of NFL.com reported earlier today that the San Francisco 49ers and their disgruntled wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk, who is looking for a new contract, may have reached a point where the 49ers would take a trade offer for Ayuk seriously. 49ers reportedly starting the bidding at a first-round pick for Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, that's whether you would start the bidding for Ayuk. This rumor has been out there for so long.
And his agent keeps killing it.
Yeah, over
different
and over.
iterations of the rumors.
I mean, if you blew them away, if you gave them 2 firsts, I'm sure they would do it.
Do you think he's 2 firsts? Do you think he's worth the Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill package?
I don't know, but did you hear what John Lynch?
John Lynch,
Yeah.
yes.
John Lynch said about him?
No, well, I don't think so.
So he was speaking, he's doing his pre-draft
Mhm.
presser, and he was asked about Ayuk, and he said, I want him to be a 49er for life,
Mhm.
but as a former player, I'm not going to discuss all the information out here because I didn't want that when I was a
Mhm.
player. But we have talked. We have talked about
Sure. Here's what I would say about Brandon Ayuk. He is not the biggest name wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, but he is the best one. He is a better football player than Deebo Samuel.
Wow. Okay.
One, Deebo is always one big hit away from missing a game because
durability is an issue.
that is the issue there. Also, Brandon Ayuk is a better wide receiver than Deebo Samuel. Like, how many routes can Deebo run? And I say that I like Deebo a lot. I've liked him since he was in college at South Carolina. I like him as a player a lot. How many routes can he run? Like, if you, on 4th and 10, who are you throwing the ball to?
Fair question.
I think you're throwing to Brandon Ayuk. I think he is a better wide receiver than Deebo is.
I don't know that would have been my answer before this past season, but I think
That's
that Ayuk really, put his name on the short list of elite wide receivers. 2 first-round picks?
I don't know that that's necessarily what it would cost. Like, if the Niners were going to say this is what it would cost to get him, I don't know that it would be 2 firsts. I was just saying, if you blew them away, I think they would make a trade for him.
I'm looking up right now.
Also, Devontae was just a first and a second.
Okay, and AJ Brown was a first and a third. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like a first and a third.
Yeah, you could do that. I just don't think the 49ers are going to part with him. I think he's too important to what they do because he blocks. He's got speed. He's a good yak guy.
Mhm.
He can run all sorts of routes. He's a true outside guy. I don't think they want to part with him.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially when your quarterback's cheap.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing. Like, the Chiefs would have loved to have done something to keep Tyreek Hill, but they had to pay Patrick Mahomes. And the 49ers don't have to pay Brock Purdy for 3 more years. Because let's be real. Well, 2 more years, I guess. He was a 7th-round pick. So they got 2 more years of cheap Brock Purdy, and they're going to ride that out. They're not going to extend Brock Purdy in the next 2 years.
No.
He's found money for them.
Yeah, keep him cheap.
So, yeah, if you got 2 more years of a cheap quarterback who I do think is a viable starting quarterback in the league, then yeah, you can afford to pay his number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade him. You don't get a lot of true number 1s. Like, Green Bay traded Devontae Adams. That did not work. The offense was a lot worse after he left. It only has gotten better because the Packers drafted 5 receivers in 2 years, and a couple of them have ended up being hits. That did not work. It worked for the Chiefs because, believe it or not, Andy Reid and mid-20s Patrick Mahomes was better than late 30s Aaron Rodgers with a bad wide receiver core. Like, surprise, that ended up working out. You've got the best quarterback in the world. I would not do that if I was San Francisco, honestly. I think he's too good. I did see Seth Keiser, who I like. We've had Seth on the show many times, who does the Only Weird Games podcast at KC Sports Network, has the Chief in the North newsletter. He put out a poll today. I got to go find this because as much as I like Seth and value his opinions, I thought this was a ludicrous thing to put out there. He tweeted out a poll. Would you rather trade 3 picks to move up to get Roma Dunze, or trade your first rounder and give a big contract to Brandon Ayuk? I hate to break this to you if you saw this report today as a Chiefs fan and thought, oh, shoot, we could do that. The San Francisco 49ers will not trade with you. Do you really think the 49ers, a bona fide Super Bowl contender, are going to trade to make their biggest threat in the opposing conference, who's beaten them twice in 4 years in the Super Bowl? Do you think they're going to give you a better player for a pick?
Nope.
No. At this point, the 49ers are in like the Broncos and the rest of the division or the Bills and trading with the Chiefs. It's not going to happen. It's not worth your time.
Yeah, no reason to strengthen your biggest obstacle.
Because yes, the Chiefs would be so would be thrilled to give up number 32 for Brandon Ayuk.
It's like that tweet that went viral. Ask my landlord to increase my rent. That's how much I believe in my hustle.
Yeah.
That's what the 49ers would be doing if they gave Brandon Ayuk to the Chiefs.
No, the DeBartolo family or whoever owns the 49ers now should fire John Lynch before he hangs up the phone if he's willing to do that. Don't waste your energy like I apparently just did. But that's not going to happen. Spencer, what's your first headline today?
Just now seeing this, even though it was a few hours ago, Caitlin Clark and the numbers for her Nike deal are out. It's an 8-year, $28 million contract. I believe that's record for a women's athlete.
I believe that is correct. Yeah.
We were talking last week. The 20 was kind of where it was originally, but she's up to 28. Apparently Under Armour and Adidas were in on it as well, but nowhere close to Nike. I'm trying to find the numbers here. The Under Armour offered 4 years and $16 million to be under the Steph Curry brand, not have her own brand. It would be, she would get a signature shoe, but it would be still the Curry brand, I believe.
Dude.
The way that the logo appeared. And then $6 million over 4 years from Adidas.
Is it too strong for me to say that's insulting from Under Armour?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, not too strong. I answered. That is accurate to say.
I mean, Steph is huge, obviously. Also has ugly shoes.
Yeah,
but
I could be reading it wrong. It was the logo, like it was the Under Armour logo with the Steph logo.
No, that makes sense.
Which had me believe
like
that it would be under the branding.
Those basketball brands are kind of intertwined. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who else has an Under Armour shoe?
Jordan Spieth has a golf shoe. Bryce Harper has a cleat.
Okay, this essentially answers my question.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of another basketball player.
I only know these because I worked there and they had big posters. up
Sure.
of people.
Sure.
Yeah, they do have a big presence out there, don't they?
Yeah.
I would find that insulting if I'm Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
You're gonna put me under another subhead? No, I am the subhead.
Yeah.
You're gonna put other people under me.
Right.
Yeah.
Other people are going to wear my shoes.
I was having this conversation with my wife the other day. We were talking about home repairs and fixer-uppers and stuff, and because we had to get our roof.
Apparently, Kelsey Plum
Is Under Armour?
has an Under Armour deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
She also in the news
not
today.
a signature shoe, but
just sponsored. But we had to get our roof replaced, right, when we bought the house. And her parents, my wife's parents, also have had to get roof work done. And her mom shared a theory. She said, I think that sometimes if you you're asking for quotes, if you get one that is so out of the norm expensive, that's just because they don't want to take the job and they are obligated to give you a quote, but they're not actually going to take the job. That's why they give you a crazy price. I feel like that's sort of what Under Armour did here. Like, we can't not make an offer, but there's no way we can pay for it.
I would say
So let's just
Adidas
throw
as
something
well.
out there.
$6 million over 4 years.
Yeah, that's
an embarrassment. I wouldn't have even submitted the damn offer.
Clearly, that's just like, hey, we feel like we have to reach out to Caitlin Clark's people because we'd be embarrassed if we didn't, but we're not going to be able to compete with
Puma
Nike.
was in on it too for a second. I saw this number. I can't find it now, but they had ESPN tweeted out like graphics of what each of the four would have been. And Puma didn't even, I don't want to get this wrong. Something with Puma offering like $1 million a year.
Jeez. It's bad. Can you name any of the current NBA players with Puma deals?
Oh,
You should know one of them.
Aaron Gordon? No. Yeah, AG's with Jokic's like Chinese shoe company, like 361.
Oh, I did not know. I was going to say Li Ning. I didn't know he had a different company.
Jokic has a deal with 361. Like,
wow.
The Nuggets, I think, might be the only team in the league without a starter who has a Nike deal.
That's crazy.
Jamal's got the New Balance deal.
Yeah. MPJ.
It is MPJ.
Yeah, MPJ's got a Puma deal. Marcus Smart is Puma, as is Scoot Henderson. And at one point, DeAndre Ayton.
I think RJ Barrett is too.
Yeah, real superstars. Their foray into the shoe game has not quite taken off all the way. Next headline for me today in our 580 Sports Talk headlines. One quick one. This is not surprising from college sports. The Pac-12 officially has lost its autonomous status. If you know a lot about the stuff going on with all the conference realignment, Power 5 is not an official title. That's a shorthand title, essentially. The real name for those conferences has been the Autonomous Five because they have autonomy over building their playoff. The Pac-12 has lost their autonomous status. They have also been removed from the D1 board of directors. So now what is left of the Pac-12 is officially treated as a G5 conference. I do think they're going to rebuild that league with the Mountain West, though. I do.
Yeah, but will it get its autonomy back?
No, it won't.
Yeah.
It just for the sake of
reviving the brand.
Yeah. I mean, you can, honestly, if you take those two schools, maybe try to find one or two schools out of the American and the best schools from the Mountain West, pretty good football league. Pretty good basketball league, too, honestly. It's just not making a whole lot of money.
Sure. Before we get to the playoff roundup, this just in from John Rothstein, matchups have been set for the 2024 Big East Big 12 battle.
Oh!
Both KU and K-State are heading out on the road. KU, the quick jump to Omaha. They're going to play Creighton.
Good.
K-State is going to play at St. John's. They're going to play Rick Pitino and St. John's.
Nice.
So a road game in New York. I don't know if they'll play that at the Garden. They don't play all their games at the Garden, but I would assume you play
that game.
A Power 5 team at the Garden.
I would think they play at least one a year. I would not be surprised if this was the game. I hope when this ends, because this is the final year of the Big East Big 12 battle, I hope that KU and Creighton, not every year probably, I hope KU and Creighton play 2 of every 3 years. Just keep playing home and homes. That is a great series, great basketball traditions, 2 fan bases that have probably a lot in common and have a lot of respect for each other. I would love for KU to play Creighton almost every year.
The other marquee matchups, Baylor goes to Storrs to take on UConn.
Good luck.
Houston hosts Butler. Iowa State hosts Marquette. Cincinnati visits Villanova. Yeah, Iowa State Marquette is revolting hoops. The least ethical hoops.
Gross.
Absolutely disgusting.
BYU at Providence actually sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, that could be fun.
That's also on the list. Texas Tech is going to beat DePaul's brains in. DePaul's going to be better next year.
Not that much better.
They can't be worse.
Georgetown at West Virginia is kind of cool. That's an old Big East matchup there. And then Oklahoma State at Seton Hall is the last one. All right, we round up ready, gentlemen.
Let's do it.
Yes, we are.
It's time. Hit it.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
Sounds like Copperhead Road or something at the beginning there.
Like the old Roundup weed killer commercial.
Yes.
Hell yeah. We'll start with the puck, where we finally had a road team win a playoff game in the NHL. It took 3 days, but a road team finally won 2 of them, in fact. Las Vegas defeating Dallas to take a 1-0 lead in that Western Conference series. In the other Western Conference series that opened last night, Edmonton defeated the Los Angeles Kings 7-4. Meanwhile, in the Eastern Conference, Toronto beat Boston, even that series at 1 game apiece. Carolina scored the game-tying and game-winning goals in a 9-second span in the third period of their game against the Islanders, coming back from a 3-goal deficit to win 5-3 and take a 2-0 series lead.
Did you see the most incredible stat from that game?
What was it?
Carolina outshot the Islanders by 61.
Yeah, this is not shots on goal. This is total shots.
Yeah.
Just shots taken. Yeah.
83 of them.
Yeah.
That's outrageous. It's a new playoff all-time record, by the way.
Incredible stuff. Anyway, tonight in the National Hockey League, Game 2s in the Eastern Conference, the Capitals at the Rangers and the Lightning at the Panthers. The home teams there won Game 1. And in the Western Conference, the Avalanche at the Jets and the Panthers at the Canucks. Again, the home teams there with 1-0 series lead. Quick vibe check. Spencer, what does Washington have to do to even the series tonight?
Score
goals.
Have Ovechkin shoot the puck.
Puck's on net.
Puck's on net.
Better goal keeping.
So just everything better than it was.
Don't do anything stupid.
All right, I can respect that.
Because the penalties are going to come no matter what, because they're going to penalize you because you're on the road.
Quick Avalanche vibe check. Alexander Georgiev is starting in goal tonight, so there is no chance for the Avalanche to win this game. He is a sieve. I hope they replace him at the first available opportunity. I don't care if the backup is sick. Anyway, NBA last night. First of all, Cleveland and Orlando played, and nobody noticed or cared. Cleveland won that series.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that series is 2-0 Cavs.
It was on NBA TV.
Yes, this is the NBA TV Invitational. I'm not going to see a single second of this series. The TNT games, though. Charles Barkley said it was the best doubleheader they've had on TNT in his 24 years as part of their television.
Yeah, Ernie
coverage.
said the same thing.
So, I'll take their word for it. Dramatic fashion, the Knicks defeat the 76ers, take a 2-0 lead in that series. Couple of big threes late by Jalen Brunson and Dante DiVincenzo. Back-to-back possessions after a wild turnover and scramble for the ball that the 76ers were pretty aggrieved about afterwards. And then in the nightcap, the Denver Nuggets rally back from 20 down in the third quarter. Jamal Murray with a game winner as the buzzer sounded right in Anthony Davis's eye hole to win that game, 101-99. Denver with a 2-0 series lead over the Lakers. Tonight, Minnesota, Milwaukee, and the Clippers will all try to take 2-0 series leads at home.
That Nuggets game was awesome.
I did not sleep a lot last night.
A great game. Lakers really whizzed on their legs.
Well, the thing about the Lakers is they are capable of playing better than the Nuggets for 2.5 quarters. Anthony Davis is capable of being the best player on a basketball court for 2.5 quarters. That's what they got. They're not giving you 48 minutes. Denver, meanwhile, that's the kind of game you win when you've won a championship, when you just don't believe you can lose, when you look up at the scoreboard and I thought, like, KU's best teams play like this, where the score doesn't really matter. Just play it possession by possession. Eventually, like, water will find its level. D'Angelo Russell isn't going to make every three-pointer he takes. Anthony Davis is going to slow down because that's what he does. And we'll just reel you back in because we're going to be efficient. We got the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic. And so that's what the Nuggets did, just reeled him back in. I was on a text thread with my buddies. I said, if they don't get it to 10 by the end of the third quarter, I might go to bed. They got it to exactly 10. And that was all they needed to do. They were down 20 with 10 minutes left in the third. They got it to 10. Lakers went 5 minutes without scoring in the third quarter. LeBron missed a butt-naked open three-pointer that could have won it, and then Jamal made his shot. And it's one of the greatest moments in Nuggets history, and I enjoyed it immensely. Let me tell you, folks, I enjoyed it a whole lot. And I feel about the Nuggets the way, like, a lot of you Chiefs fans have felt about the Chiefs the last few years, where it doesn't matter who you're playing, where you're playing them, the state of the game, anything like that. You just think, oh, we'll win. We'll figure it out. We got the best guy. We'll figure it out. We have the best player. We're really well coached. We'll make the proper adjustments. Doesn't matter what the scoreboard says. Is there time on the clock? Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We've got to get to a break coming up next. More of your texts, more of your YouTube comments, and Tyreek Hill, please shut up. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, do you remember what the name of Tyreek Hill's podcast was?
It needed to be said.
It needed to be said. The funny thing about the name of that podcast is absolutely nothing that Tyreek Hill says needed to be said.
Maybe ever in his life.
Never, not a single time. He was a guest on a podcast recently. This is the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast. Is that what I'm reading here? That's what this is called?
There are too many podcasts.
$1 Million Worth of Game.
Who hosts this podcast?
That's a great question. I'm about to find out for you here. This is hosted by...
It's a song by 2 Chainz.
Maybe 2 Chainz is hosting it?
Gilly the King, rapper / actor Gilly the King, and social media influencer and disruptor Wallow267.
Okay, so AI bots.
This
All
is
right.
a Barstool thing.
It is?
Yeah, it's the 2 people of color that can tolerate Barstool.
Oh, geez. I guess it is. Wow. Okay. This seems very fake again. So,
I didn't even know that exists, and I would say I'm in the Barstool podcast realm.
So, yeah, I've never heard of this before, either of these 2 people. They're interviewing Tyreek Hill on what appears to be a slab of concrete that's having construction done on it, with 2 children playing on an ATV in the back. Things are really going well in this video from the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast. And they started talking about the Chiefs and started talking about Isaiah Pacheco. If we can get audio here, I made sure there's no swearing in this.
Got it.
So we can play it. The 2 hosts talking to Tyreek Hill, pay attention especially to the end of this 23-second clip.
Yeah, man. Kansas City got a real good running back, too.
Yeah, and he's a dog. He run hard.
Oh,
He can run like old Roger Craig.
but you can hear and see every step he take. That be so hard.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I did feel disrespected when they gave him 10, though.
Okay.
I ain't like that.
You ain't like
It's
that.
only 110 now.
It's only
No, there's not. There are many 10s. Lots of people wear 10. Many people have worn 10. Actively wear 10. Trent Green wore 10.
Yeah, man. It's not like you're Tony Gonzalez. You're with the team for a full decade.
Can you name the first Chief to wear 88 after Tony Gonzalez?
I don't think they've given it out, have they?
Incorrect. Junior Hemingway wore 88.
Okay, but it took a while, right?
No, I don't think so. Junior Hemingway when did he play? Okay, you're right. It had been a little bit. 2012 is when Junior Hemingway started playing. When did Tony G stop in Kansas City?
I'm pulling up the history of the number 88 in Kansas City. Yeah, it was 4 years.
4 years. Okay,
Yeah,
4 years.
He was done playing in 2008. Yes, Junior Hemingway, Ross Travis. Oh, I'm sorry. Anthony Becht wore it in 2011. So they had it out of circulation for 2 seasons before they gave it to Anthony Becht.
Dog. Like,
Who's that?
number 88 for Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah, I'm saying, who is Anthony Beck?
Anthony Becht, also a tight end. And that
Former
is the-
Dolphin.
Also a tight end, also played for the Chiefs, also wore number 88. And that is where the comparisons with Tony Gonzalez stop.
Yes.
Also, father of Iowa State quarterback Rocco Becht.
Yes, Anthony Becht is also the head coach of the St. Louis Battlehawks. Could cause the law. We're 3-1 at home. Anyway, or 3-1 overall, undefeated at home. Anyway, like, dude, you know who wore 88 when Tony Gonzalez was honored at Arrowhead Stadium? Jody Fortson. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, can we please be serious about this?
Yeah, they don't retire numbers like that. Like it passage of time, man.
You are not the only person on earth, Tyreek. I know you feel like you are.
The protagonist of reality.
Just unbelievable, man.
So, like, the Chiefs are not as stingy as other teams about retiring numbers. They do have one that was retired in honor of Stone Johnson, who passed away due to an injury that he suffered in a preseason game. But the other guys to have their numbers retired are Gian Stenerud, Len Dawson, Emmett Thomas, Abner Haynes, Mac Lee Hill, Derek Thomas, Willie Lanier, Bobby Bell, and Buck Buchanan.
They're going to add 2 eventually to that list.
Yes, they're going to retire 15 and they're going to retire 87.
Yes.
Maybe 95 too. Like we're heading in that direction.
Yeah.
But like Tyreek Hill was a very good Chief for 5 years.
Give me another.
Was a great Chief. Let's be
Give
honest.
me another 5 to 8, and we'll talk. Like if he was a Chief for 10 to 14 years or whatever, 13 years, Then we can talk about retiring somebody's number.
Did you know that the Kansas City Chiefs have retired? I got to make sure this is accurate.
Mackley Hill's number was retired because he also passed away while an active member of the team. So when you don't have the longevity, there's obviously a reason behind why they would retire your number.
The Chiefs are tied with the Philadelphia Eagles for the third most retired numbers. With 9 each. So they actually don't have a ton of space left. You're only allowed 14. The NFL told the Chicago Bears you are not allowed to retire any more numbers because they had retired too many. So Brian Urlacher will not have his number retired by the Bears, which is outrageous.
Yeah,
he's one of the best players in that team's history.
They got to unretire some numbers.
Like Willie Gallimore cannot have his number retired. He played for 7 years in the 50s and 60s. I'm sorry, Willie, you were a great player in your time. You cannot have your number retired.
Yeah, you can have that conversation with the Gallimore family, right?
Right.
Like, do they need to have a number retired for George Halas?
No, they have his initials on their jerseys.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to retire a number for him.
Well, you can only officially retire 14, but you can retire as many numbers as you want.
Like you could put anybody in the a Ring of Honor. Like, do I think that they should put Tyreek Hill in the Ring of Honor at Arrowhead Stadium? Yeah, I do.
I was referring to just unofficially. Like the Washington franchise only has, I think, 4 players now? This article just...
Yeah, but
they have John Taylor, Sammy Ball, Bobby Mitchell, and Sonny Jurgensen. But
I think that's kind of a toothpaste out of the tube thing, though. Like, I don't think you can retire 9. Like, if you're the Bears, you have 14 retired numbers. I don't think you can just suddenly be like, well, we're also going to keep 54 and 55 for Lance Briggs. And 33 for Peanut Tillman.
Then you run out of numbers.
Well, right, exactly. That's why the NFL told them to stop. Because then you can't just say, well, we're not going to circulate these anymore.
Yeah, just like there aren't any single-digit numbers to wear for the Yankees anymore.
Right.
They're all retired.
I like retired numbers. I think it's cool. I like the way the Packers do it where, you need to be in the Hall of Fame and you need to be, untouchably great. But I also love the way the Cowboys did it. The Cowboys don't retire numbers.
No, they just got the Ring of Honor.
If you're the number 1 receiver and Jerry Jones thinks you're really, really good, you get to wear 88.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, which is actually awesome. I love that they do that. Drew Pearson, Michael Irvin, Des Bryant, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else has done it. I love that they do that.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool tradition.
But yeah.
That's why you have the separation between a Ring of Honor and a retired number, or why the Royals have the Royals Hall of Fame. Yes, we should celebrate Kevin Apier's contributions to the Kansas City Royals, but we're not going to take his number out of circulation. We're going to save that for George Brett, Frank White, Dick Hauser, and the next one they retire will be 13 for Salvador Perez. Or maybe 4 for Alex Gordon, but I don't think so. I think it'll be Salvi. Only Salvi was the captain.
Can you name for your favorite team, Dan, the only 4 Seahawks to have their numbers retired?
Number 12 for the fans. Don't get me started. Number 71 for Walter Jones.
Correct.
Number 80 for Steve Largent.
Correct.
And number 96 for Cortez Kennedy.
Correct. Missing one.
Am I?
Yeah, I didn't count the fans.
Oh, you didn't count the fans?
No.
Is it 10 for Zorn?
Nope.
Is it 45 Kenny Easley?
Correct. There's all 4. Wow, the Packers have the most retired numbers of any of our 3 favorite teams. That's kind of weird.
How many?
They've also been around the longest.
6. I bet you didn't know anything about Tony Canadillo before today, though. That's right.
I just know that's a name I've seen on the facade at Lambeau Field.
Yes. Tony Canadillo, Brett Favre, Don Hudson, Bart Starr, Ray Nitschke, Reggie White. That's it.
Yeah, and even with the franchise, with the history that they have, there are Hall of Famers that don't have their numbers retired by the Packers.
Many of them.
Jerry Kramer's number isn't retired.
Darryl Green's number should be retired by Washington.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
19 years for one team.
Yeah, I like limited number retirements and big rings of honor / halls of fame.
Yes,
that's how I like it.
I agree completely.
Tyreek Hill, you're getting in one of those and certainly not the other. Coming up next, we will preview tonight's Royals versus Blue Jays game 2. This is 580 Sports Talk. Dan, do you remember the time we aired this bump, Movies by Alien Ant Farm, and Jesse Newell got really excited? This was a long, I mean, we're talking probably 2017 or 18.
Before we had an open for Jesse.
Yes, because I think it was even in the days where we used to split the interviews. I think it might have been coming back for the second half of an interview.
Yeah,
and
you might be right. Yeah.
Britt was producing.
Used to split interviews?
Yeah, like when we talked to Swain today, we would have done it in 2 pieces. Yeah, and then we said, you know what? This is dumb. We're just going to keep the conversation flowing and not jam a commercial in the middle. Our advertisers still get played. But we come back and we're playing Movies by Alien Ant Farm. And Jake is about to intro the segment, and Jesse goes, "Oh, is that Movies by Alien Ant Farm?" He was so excited. I'm pretty sure the whole end of that segment was just them talking about 90s music and like
That sounds
music
about
from
right.
2001.
That sounds like a Jake and Jesse conversation. It's just completely hijacked the segment.
We've got a bunch of NFL draft to get to tomorrow on the show. We've got our mock drafts coming your way. We will get to some other chatter about the draft. Saw an interesting question from Daniel Jeremiah about biggest needs in the draft that we're going to get to coming up tomorrow as well. Tim Fitzgerald is going to join us. It's all coming up tomorrow right here on 580 Sports Talk. We got Royals baseball tonight. Game 2 between the Royals and the Blue Jays. Kevin Gausman on the hill for the Jays. Michael Wacha gets the call for the Royals tonight. Bounce back opportunity. All these games are now bounce back opportunities. When you're on a losing streak, every game is a bounce back opportunity.
Until you've actually bounced back. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Your Royals starting lineup tonight. I had accidentally closed this. Here it is. Garcia, Witt, Pasquantino, Perez, your top 4. MJ Melendez is in left tonight, hitting 5th. Adam Frazier, your DH, in the 6th hole. Dairon Blanco in right. He's hitting 7th. Michael Massey at second base. Kyle Isbell back in. He is rounding things out in the 9 hole in center field, getting the start. And again, in support of Michael Wacha tonight.
Yeah, it's an important game, and want to see how they bounce back. This is, again, the first time they've kind of looked adversity in the eye a bit with this 3-game losing streak. They got to get off first, throw a first punch, get out to a lead, which they haven't been able to play from a lead very often. You'd like to see them maybe throw the first punch against Gausman, who can be really good when he gets rolling. He's one of the best pitchers in the American League.
Yeah, has not been the greatest start for Kevin Gausman, or as I just typed into my computer, Gavin Gausman. So far this year for the former Grandview Wolf, he has his last time out against the Yankees 6 days ago, only allowed 1 run and struck out 6 in 5 innings. Did take the losing decision, but really good outing in that one. That was the first time this season he had gone 5 innings.
Wow.
3 2/3 against the Rockies in a loss. Gave up 6 runs. 1 1/3 against the Yankees his first time against them. And then his first game of the year, he went 4 1/3 and gave up just 1 earned run. So, yeah, he has not been going deep into games so far this year.
Yeah, keep a struggling pitcher struggling. Obviously, there's something there that's not as sharp as it typically is for Gausman. Keep him struggling.
Hit the ball hard. That is what the Royals do. That is what the Royals do better than anybody, frankly. And it's certainly their best trait as an offense. Just smack the you-know-what out of the ball. Do more of that today. Maybe you can keep some of that momentum going for you and keep the negative momentum going for Kevin Gausman as well. We have to get to one final commercial break. We'll come back right after it, and we will wrap up 580 Sports Talk with the final word. fun show for 580 Sports Talk today. If you missed any of it, you can go check out the YouTube feed. The show will be archived immediately when we are done over at the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. You can also, of course, go check out the podcast version of the show at 580wibw.com. Hover over podcasts and click on 580 Sports Talk. Time for the final word. Spencer, you are up first for the final word today.
Another day of suffering through a Patrick Corbin start as the numbers keep going down. It took him 22 pitches to get through the first inning, allowing a hit and a walk. His ERA is down now to 7.71. Hopefully it keeps going down. I do have some faith tonight for the Capitals. Your resident DC sports enthusiast will be back at it tomorrow. Hopefully positive.
We'll look forward to the vibe check playoff roundup tomorrow.
You never want to start with another day of misery. Is that what you said?
Yeah, because
Suffering.
because Patrick Corbin's on the mound.
He does think he's very
He only
bad.
threw 10 strikes and 22 pitches.
He would be the best starting pitcher in the 2024 Colorado Rockies. My final word today. I can't believe it's the Los Angeles Lakers crying to the officials, crying about the officials, copying pleas in a playoff game, and then forced to throw up their hands and say, boy, there's just nothing we can do to beat the Denver Nuggets. Because let me tell you, for 36 of my 38 years on this planet, it was the exact opposite that was happening. So I am enjoying this alternate reality very, very much.
Final word for me today is I think the Chiefs are in a pretty nice spot at the end of the first round. A lot of good wide receivers, a lot of good offensive tackles in this year's draft. Maybe there aren't a ton of top tier tackles, but a lot of good possible starting options. They can do pretty much whatever they want at the end of the first round. But if I'm them, I want my wide receiver to be a guy who can play and win from any spot where you line him up on the field. And for my offensive tackle, I just want to know it's a guy who is going to be steady. I don't need Jonathan Ogden out there, although that would be nice. I just need someone who's not going to get pushed around, who's going to protect the Patrick Mahomes blind side, who I just don't have to worry about for the next couple of years. If you can find two guys like that in some order in the first and second round, this draft is going to be a home run for the Kansas City Chiefs. We've got plenty of draft to get to coming up tomorrow on the show. We will also be joined by Tim Fitzgerald to talk all things K-State. Don't forget the podcast version of the show at 580wibw.com and the YouTube 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. For Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuis, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Talk to you tomorrow at 2 for 580 Sports Talk.